and find his niche in this meta makes you feel pretty good about T1's chances in the best of 5. Before Road to MSI, we were a little worried. Now you feel much better.
And to augment these bot laners, it is their supports, Carrier and Delight. Carrier especially yesterday in those pro views being so extraordinarily vocal, looking like he was the architect of so many of these team fights that in the last 3 games went all T1's way.
And the best carry support versus what I'd consider the best engage support in the LCK. I do think Delight hasn't quite shown those incredible montage moments that we're so used to seeing from him. And Carrier, I think he started slow yesterday. The Elise game was a little off, but after that, I do think he came back in with a vengeance.
Carrier's shot calling was the big story of yesterday. We saw it in so many of the comms, so many of the shared footage that was out there. He's being a very vocal. You know, he and Faker obviously share that role, but I think his leadership has actually really improved a lot and is a big part of why T1 were able to dismantle KT Rolster yesterday.
Here are your teams, ladies and gentlemen. It is the road to MSI. One of these teams is going to be stopped here today. We just have to find out whether the miracles in Busan for T1 will continue or whether it is a call from reality as Life Esports look to continue their golden road.
As it's Peanut and Faker with a little smile as well, of course. Longtime rivals, ex-teammates, as the coaching staff takes the stage, and I can't wait to see. To be fair, I feel like the first 2 games of Fearless Draft, it's pretty on rails. We know what to expect, but it's starting game 3 that it gets really fun.
I love the stories about Mata as well, because yesterday he was facing off against Score, and of course there was a little pat on the back moment, their ex-teammates. Well, now it's Dandy and Mata, so there's ex-teammates for Mata everywhere. This guy has played for every team in every era of this game. It is absolutely ridiculous, and we are getting very, very close to the Game 1 draft. This is going to set the stage, of course. Side selection is there. Life Esports did have the upper side of this bracket in theory, but they did come from the round 3 match.
I think even though early in Fearless, Blue Side has had such an insane advantage. It's given you, with all the OP picks, so many extra edges. Teams have really gotten better about drafting on red side, and it really has been, especially in Road to MSI specifically, the better team wins. And, you know, KT Rolster proved that. Sometimes it's not even necessarily about draft, it's who is the better team on the day, but also teams like T1 showed us with that Zig strap yesterday into the Zaya, the Camille setup that we've seen 1,000 times, that sometimes draft can just be enough to get you across the line. So this first one, I don't know if we're going to see a massive draft gap either way, but some of those big prio picks like the Azir, the Victor, we'll see if they get dropped out early.
We'll just have to find out, as now it is time. I think eyes are going to be on things like Yone, things like the Talia, especially. Vi will be perma-banned throughout the entire series. That is not something really to worry about. But I think there will be some 80 carries that slip through. Who is going to get the Kalista in game number 1? There are a lot of these questions that are going to crop up, as there are only so many things you can take away.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be allowed to play Kalista in this series. Every time we have seen it, it just felt like
big
problem is you're highlighting, though, there are so many OP picks, so many champs that make us go, why does X player get Y champion? One of the things that I do think is important, we saw in the series against Gen G that with Chovy specifically, he was able to find lane encounters to some champions that were considered kind of impossible to deal with. Neither of these players really played towards lane all that much, right? Both Zeka and Faker, I think, are more known for what they do out of lane. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just go for champions that have maximum impact. Talia, the Galio are ones that I'd be looking towards.
Like, they haven't banned Vi yet. Are they looking to trade Vi for Kalista Renata? That would be such a bold choice. Renata's strong into dive compositions, but when you don't see Vi in that first spot on red side, you're starting to wonder, like, what kind of game is T1 playing here? Because that's the obvious one. That's the permanent one. We have never not seen that one. So some decision making here on this final moment about it. And they're going to leave both the Kalista, of course, and that Vi. So, I mean, I kind of what you value.
I had a feeling that they were going to gamble with the Peanut Vi situation.
It's gonna be Vi.
They have to lock it in.
Because the Kalista Renata, as good as it is, Nico is still open. Has actually made it through the draft. If you answer with Varus Nico, that's playable. I don't think you can give Owner Vi, and we trust Peanut on Vi blindly as well. So, but T1 knew this was going to happen as well. Yeah. And the only thing that makes me kind of wonder is, I feel like the Poppy in particular we've seen be used with great efficiency. Another answer is Skarner, but Skarner has been a bit hot and cold, and Ona's performance last time was not necessarily the best.
Yeah. I think you pretty much have to go for the Kalista setup here, though. There's not really any other way to approach this, although T1 disagree. And we'll at least look at the Gwen.
Yeah, you could theoretically pick the Kalista, see whether they're going to pick away the Nico, and then opt in for something else other than the Renata.
You could the Nico here and deny their Kalista counter, and then get the Kalista Nico as a response.
I think with those two bans, though, you're going to be gunning for the Kalista. Like, both Poppy and Talia are so good into it. It'll be really a big gamble. You're right, they're all going to go for the Nico.
I think this is kind of the checkmate moment, because you deny they don't want to play Kalista anymore now into this Nico, and then you still get to have it.
This is the problem for me, though, is you can't deny Ahri Vi from Peanut and Zeka. And we haven't seen this combination like all year because it's illegal. You're just not allowed to see it because Vi has been banned in every single game. This has, like, point and click, you're dead is basically how it works. And Zeka is no stranger to the Ahri play as well. Let's see whether Homolife Esports are actually happy to pick away the Kalista. That picture is hilarious. And instead, it's going to be a Jax consideration for Zeus.
まあ多分ニコが嫌だったんだろうね。ニコこの最優先の感じ。昨日もニコで中断戦負けてたし。
Response to the Gwen with the Rumble ban, obviously. This has really been the go-to for so many players that know how to space it well, know how to play this matchup incredibly well. And Zeus is the Jace in the top lane who will dominate that lane, and you can absolutely play through it here in this draft. This is where you gotta lock Kalista, though, right? Surely.
Well, so with the Vi on the opposite end, I can see why you wouldn't. One of the big weaknesses that Kalista does have is getting locked down, and that isn't an option here.
サイド終わるからカリスタピックしてエンゲージできるようにした方がいいと思うからな。
We saw KT use this combo with such great power. When it comes to the Jace, I like it with the Vi as well as the Ahri because it both allows you to do a little bit of preliminary work, soften up some of the targets, but you can also go in when the Vi, when the Ahri actually go in and pull the trigger on that dive.
Now, I think the obvious ban is give me that Victor. That was the consideration over the Kalista here for T1, as it is a pick that Faker is incredibly comfortable on, has been so high prio for T1, and shores up a lot of their damage. Instead, they take away the Nocturne first, as the Xayah ban is also pretty obvious here in this draft.
Yeah, the Xayah ban is actually kind of interesting. I was expecting a Jhin ban to come through just because Viper being able to sit back, play that utility role, and to allow for even more of these single target picks with the Deadly Flourish will really synergize with this composition that they've already put together.
まあいいにしてほしいね、マジで。サイドはマジできつい、これ。
It's okay, Atlas. You know, sometimes we just get caught off guard by our own tendencies.
Thinking about this, I was actually considering something like this because they need a lot of physical damage.
Feels like it's a better fit, though.
Not only do they need physical damage, but actually, yeah, I was about to say, they need engage because they don't really have great engage right now. Obviously, you can throw in the Nico, but it is very all-in. Wukong, to me, feels both the niche of being able to provide a reliable source of AD damage, as well as the CC or the AoE CC to combine with the Nico, while also having a consistent angle to get on top, because both the Xin Zhao, with the way Owner plays it, as well as the Nocturne, would have provided the surefire way to start fights.
I think that you're looking for any sort of strong matchup here. The Jhin would have been a good option. Obviously, you have such strong, powerful engage to allow the Jhin to follow up. Misfortune is
MF
idea. Yeah, the Rel comes through. Going to be a tougher lane matchup. And now this Nico, I don't think we really thought it was going to be a flex, but it definitely won't be. And Faker will be the final lock-in here. Could go for damage because you have a lot of peel with this Wukong, or instead, in this case, you could just go for the ultimate ability to brawl hard with this triple melee composition that has the Nico engage, and you basically can go on to anyone. The Ahri is not going to be safe. The Jace is certainly not going to be safe. And this immobile AD carry in the Misfortune has a pretty weak front line, frankly. There's a lot of ways to access and get on top of Viper here for T1. I like T1's draft here in this first game.
Both these two drafts, I think, fall apart once you start falling behind. There is obviously, when it comes to these 10 champions, I think the Gwen in particular kind of stands alone once you get to the free out and beyond
これだけピック切ると、まあ、バンピック自体はやりやすいと思う、2戦目以降。ここまで含めて考えると、まあ、そこまで悪くない。
I think I'd be a little bit worried about Homa, but this is a 4-carry composition, right? Literally every single member of the team can provide a little bit. It's the same for T1. But it does mean that with how short range basically every character on the map is, once you start falling behind, you can't actually go for the short trades and the full commitment to these skirmishes. It's going to be so hard to take control.
There's no way out if you commit in. You will just be pop blossomed, cycloned, and then the Sylas is going to be flying through the team fight. So when you commit for that pick, when you see the ult charm attempts here from Zeka, you better hit those. You better blow that target up. Vi gives you insane setup for it. It's going to make it a little bit easier, but they have to be super crisp with how they play this. I think absolutely Hanwha can win with this, but the execution has to be so clean.
It does, but once they get ahead, I mean, single target pick, you make that map dark, it becomes a scary, scary place. Let's jump into the rift for game one. Oh my goodness, we were missing this yesterday, but this stadium just erupted with the T1 cheers. Everyone making sure that they're here to see whether T1 can stamp that ticket to MSI. Of course, quite a few HLE fans here in the audience today, but the most popular team in this entire esport, certainly still very loud.
And in the entirety of esports as well. Of course, they're a multi-game org themselves. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Faker plays on this Sylas, because that is one of the big cruxes of this draft. And you know, individually, he has been struggling in some of these melee into ranged matchups where he is the melee, and we'll see if he can, you know, deal with Zeka in this early laning phase and how he looks in the first few skirmishes, as it is going to obviously be a high-impact champion in this draft. It's not the Giga Sylas hijack angle draft here for Hanwha Life, but there's still some good ultimates, especially the Ahri ultimate, to get you to close the gap.
Yeah, they both actually have Vi, as it turns out.
Yes, also that.
Zeus is going for the phase rush here, which I think, particularly into Gwen, who's looking for these short aggressive trades, actually works out quite nicely. We have seen Gwen's early game be somewhat mitigated. I think Grass still goes a long way, as we can see here. But this top lane matchup, I think once the couple of levels comes in and Zeus gets access to more skills, he should be able to maintain a decent level of prio. Both junglers currently in the top half of the map, pathing towards bot. Zeus is the level 2 gap, but Doran does find the sidestep still though. Trade a bit rough.
Does have to dash away. Doesn't have
does
to
he miss
flash or anything.
He misses a good amount of experience there.
Yeah, that's huge. We did see Zeus use his pot. Doran, however, did not commit to his, so still has that potion in the inventory. Zeka is doing what you're supposed to do in the first few levels of this match.
この試合以降のランブルはかなり強いね。グエンとジェイス消えてるからな。マジでピックしやすい。
Yeah, I think probably just waiting for that lane swap opportunity as early as possible. T1 was doing that all day yesterday as well, but this wave, a big one, going to be crashing towards Doran's turret. Might even be plate territory. It's a huge wave.
It's also a big deal that T1's bot lane actually maintains this pressure, because both mid and top are not going to have prio, right? So that means there's a lot of freedom for Peanut, and he has a lot stronger ability to impact the map, especially pre-level 6. Post-6 it becomes a little different, but even post-6, I feel like Vi, there's a reason why this champion is just perma-banned, right? It makes it so easy to set up any play, even on traditionally slippery targets like the Gwen.
As to the skies, Flash has to be used this time around as Doran was out of dashes.
I mean, this top lane, watching it though, has just been absolute cinema between Doran blocking there with his Shroud, the Q from Zeus, but it's still obviously going to be a Jace favorite matchup with both players playing perfectly, and Doran will be shoved out of the lane first here. Does have his teleport, of course. So it won't be too consequential, but it's a pretty significant advantage that Zeus has already picked up. Stops the back as well.
Oh, Peanut going to be grabbing this scuttle. It is a trade of the two of those between these junglers. Oh my goodness, Chunk connects a Faker. He has to flash. Otherwise, that true damage would have killed him.
You saw Zeka for a split second there. He was like, walked close, didn't actually commit the flash. I think the right call. I don't think they knew for certain where Owner was. Could be backing. Could be right next to you in the lane, and getting the flash is just a big win, because again, there's a Vi on the enemy team.
Yeah, Gume is going to swap up here to the top side now, as Doran heads down to the bottom side with his teleport. Tough matchup to play out here. And it's going to be a free back for Zeus in the meanwhile, with the push coming through.
Yeah, first straight going to be a Chemtech as well, so Orcs off the hook immediately in this game, which means that he's probably able to breathe a sigh of relief, get back to his job instead of worrying about what dragon it's going to be. That's fantastic stuff. As Faker back in the lane once again, has augmented his build with a Ring in a Book. not necessarily going to be feeling too much better about this matchup just yet.
Really interesting to see who's going to be the one to pull the trigger on Dragon, because right now T1 has vision advantage from their Kalista push in the bottom side, but obviously now Doran is going to lose control of this lane, and Faker does not have mid control.
Yeah. So Carrier looking for a bit of an angle here, starts it with a Pop Blossom instead of those Tangle Barbs.
It seems like Peanut is going to head over there. Is on vision though, as Doran.
Oh dear, Doran goes into the circle. Shock Blast goes wide though, as now Doran looking to try and put on the pressure. Let's see, the snips are coming in, and there's a pause.
Oh, no,
he couldn't face it. He couldn't face being solo killed by Doran, or something has gone catastrophically.
Well, Zeus still has flash, right? So
yeah. No, I felt the melodrama.
No, I do. I appreciate your flash for
really, because we might be settling in for quite a pause.
I hope not.
We have seen so many times in this matchup between these two players. Like even when Doran was on Genji, talked about the MVP thing earlier. That Zeus has been neutralized by Doran. Like it seems like in best of fives in our roadshows here at LCK, it doesn't necessarily happen internationally. It doesn't necessarily happen in regular season. But there's these moments where you're like, is Doran gonna do it? Like is he gonna get the outplay? Yeah. And in these big best of fives, this feels like a finals, right? It's obviously not. It's our second seed qualifier match here. But Doran again, man, he's playing aggressively. He's getting the better end of Zeus once more. Now, like you said,
I want this pause to actually be like, Owner's keyboard feels like it's lagging. That's what I want the pause to be. Peripheral issue. And it's like Faker who's just like, oh no, something's going a little bit wrong here. In the meantime, there is this incredibly intense, it's a Gumayusi audio issue, guys. Yeah, it's actually what I was saying. It's so good. It's perfect.
Yeah, so hopefully audio issues like peripheral and audio issues are the ones that we're looking for. It will be interesting to see if they actually do get the flash. Jace is just as susceptible, or I'd argue more susceptible to ganks from the Wukong the moment that the flash is down.
Look at Faker's face as well. He's grinning a little bit. He's like, Doran, it's going to be okay, buddy.
I mean, what will likely happen is he will just instantly flash out of the pause. I mean, it looks like Doran has like the wind up, like he's looking for the auto, but
I don't know if it's enough. We'll see. I don't know if his E cooldown is already short enough that because if he doesn't have another E, he obviously can't flash.
Yeah, then
he's out of snips. So we'll see. Zeus either flashes or walks it up, but then it's still a win for Doran, right? I don't know what the lane state was, but I think it was pretty decently far up. Maybe he can set up a freeze, because he was behind because of the early plates. Could be an opportunity to kind of equalize that lane.
Yeah, I can imagine that, Doran is probably feeling a little bit triggered after that one, but Owner and Faker, both of them, with grins on their faces during this pause. So we're hoping that Gumayusi's audio issue is going to be sorted out very, very quickly.
And like you said earlier, Max, like it's probably just, it's going to be a flash. You know, maybe if there's a misplay out of this pause, I suppose it could be a kill, but I don't think so. But it's so interesting that if you asked anybody 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, like would Doran get the better of Zeus, especially in a matchup like this where he's playing the Gwen into Zeus's Jace? Would he be able to make a play like this? I feel like 9 out of 10 people say no.
One auto and then the flash does actually come in. As the chains are going to connect here from Faker, finding a really good trade with the Kingslayer, feeling like he can just shake off the earlier harassment that Zek was able to put down.
Yeah, we'll lose some farm for it though.
And unless there is an actual punishment, that flash from Faker being forced doesn't really matter that much, right? So we'll see. Once level 6 is available, there's definitely an opportunity, as we do know Faker loves to go in for these skill checks. I think Zeka also maybe expecting that. Ready for it, but it's going to be wave clearing for now.
Not too worried about it. Zeka was considering a back, but Owner comes over to clear out this control ward. Zeka is not going to risk it. Peanut on the Dragon.
Yeah, the Dragon I mentioned earlier, especially with that play from Doran there on the flash take away from Zeus. This feels like a pretty easy setup. Now, I say that Owner is looking for a potential steal here.
They thought he backed because he was on the ward.
Well, he can see Peanut, but he couldn't see the health bar. As
I think
as Peanut, gets wind of it. And Owner comes in. Let's see who's going to be able to take this. And it's just stealing it away.
Even with the shock blast from Zeus.
Yeah. Not able to coordinate it, unfortunately.
That's massive.
Burst the burst that's available to the Wukong is, I think, just more than the Vi. I think Peanut there was trying to also time it with his third hit of his passive, right? The W, that is a good amount of percentage health damage, but doesn't quite get it. And Owner able to get them an early Dragon.
Nicely played. It is one Chemtech, not end of the world or anything like that, but if this is a sign of things to come, that could be dangerous because we saw in the last series, once again, it was Canyon finding all of those smites against Peanut. Peanut hasn't necessarily had the smite hands in series, in fact, throughout this entire year, to be honest.
It's not one of his most famous traits. As
Those aren't
the reasons you usually talk about Peanut being a great player.
Yeah. And to be okay, never mind.
Looks like it's probably Guma still, based on his facial expression there.
Yeah, he was a little bit like, yes, something is still potentially wrong.
Well, at least there's no all-in happening right now. Looking at the map, everyone's kind of chilling.
He took Viper all in on killing that minion wave.
He took the time when he was resetting to be like, yeah, it's still broken.
Yep.
Again, this is our assumption. We will, of course, let you guys know for sure once we do have official confirmation.
Yeah, Doran is obviously not going to be quite as flustered this time around. But yeah, it's the same issue. Confirmation there that, once again, Gumushi's audio is struggling just a little bit. So we'll just make sure that we get that sorted out and get back onto the Rift as soon as possible. As, yeah, Guma looking like he is feeling like perhaps this is not ideal, and we just want to play some League of Legends.
And both compositions, once they hit 6, have such insane power spikes. We already saw it in mid, right? Both the real Ariel and the fake Ariel already being at the ready, but particularly for the Wukong and the impact that he can have in fights. We already the Vi as well, yeah. A lot of the fights will, I think, come down to, for Humble Life, can we find a single target and eliminate them in time? Because I think the AoE power of the T1 composition, particularly if they can get a flank off with either their Wukong or their Nico, can be tough to deal with if you're fighting in
And obviously, with the explosive engage opportunities that both of these teams have, having Prio and having the vision and the ability to select the correct target and set up that fight, knowing where the enemy peel is really important. So continuing to have lane Prio, I think, was really important for Humble Life's comp because they have the Jason to the Gwen, right? They have the Ahri range matchup, obviously, into the Sylas, and they've been able to hold that Prio thus far, but we haven't really had a clash on objectives outside of that steal, but not really a true fight. Perhaps when these grubs do open up in a moment's time here, we'll see that fight break out and start to see those ultimates really make that impact. Because like we've talked about so much with the drafts, you win that first fight, if you win it with like a 3 kills clean, that might just be like what propels you to win the game because it snowballs so hard. If you get a single pick, you get the objective, there's still some play there, there's still some wiggle room, but certainly this next big fight is going to be a big one.
Oh no, there was a little bit of trouble in paradise there, as we just saw. We'll see who is going to be the happier member of that particular relationship towards the end.
I do really like the very different styles where you have like the happy tank with it's like an advanced war style. The orange is coming out, and then the faker one is like, no, we are not here to mess around. Oh. We are playing a very serious video game.
Well, my favorite one's still the Zeka's head is small because his shoulders are so big.
Yeah.
It took me a while to figure out what it meant, and then I realized what it meant.
Yeah. This man carries. As I think we know this one.
Oh, Viper too, though.
Oh man.
Okay,
so Viper can carry as well. That's what we're saying. As Jojo back on the broadcast for a few moments, and we just. The meta really, it's really getting out of control.
Never stops developing.
Really
haven't seen this one before. Before you know it, we're gonna get like the actual flippy books where you just have animation.
Yeah. Or someone's gonna come and they've got like the paper that's extraordinarily long and one of those old printers, and they just pull it up as if you're like reading the comics.
Oh, like the decree.
Yeah. Ready for that one. That's going to take a lot of paper, a lot of coordination.
Well, we have the time, clearly.
Well, I mean, that's true. And also, I think you need to, like, reach a next level if you want to make sure that you get it on camera as well, because there are, like, thousands of people here in this stadium today, as we can see here.
Yeah, just a reminder that in Korea, in the LCK, and in Korean esports, it's obviously massive. A match like this to be a qualifier for an international tournament means so much. The LCK has a history of being dominant at international tournaments. As Ox mentioned earlier, though, not necessarily at MSI recently, despite being the defending champions. That was where the LCK struggled more than they did at the World Championship. But it's so important to all these fans of all these teams, including KT, who was here yesterday, attempting to make their run to MSI, that their team gets a shot to prove that, again, they're one of top 2 teams in Korea. They're the second best in today that Korea has to offer. And perhaps they could be the best. They have an opportunity at MSI to prove that as well.
I really like all of these overarching thoughts, Wolf, but I just saw a Pikachu with opposable thumbs. And that's not real. That's just ruined my immersion entirely. Pikachu cannot make the Zeus sign. He just actually cannot do it.
Well, I also he doesn't have it as his tail. That is already a lightning bolt.
It's already there.
Look, I didn't. It's okay. It's okay, Atlas.
Sorry, that really bothered me. Oh, she did a high five with the player as they were walking out today.
Never wash her hand
now she's
again.
Never going to wash her hands.
That's a classic.
And also on her hand it said luck button.
Oh, they're back again. Samira and Jace. Very, very cool.
I want to say Set and Poppy.
Yeah, Poppy for sure,
there
right?
we go. Oh, everyone's a Zeus fan?
I mean, Zeus, he's a top Poppy enjoyer.
He actually, well, I mean, we've got Owner and Peanut in the game. I don't think that's illegal. The Poppy cannot be a reference to Zeus today.
Well, she said it was, Atlas. I don't know.
It's actually a very good point. It's not up.
I think she gets to decide.
Yeah,
maybe she was also protesting the Pikachu thing. You know, it's just going back to that.
Might have been like everyone can do this. See, Poppy would have been a better option. At least she's got opposable.
I think maybe if you get 2 Pikachus, you can do like the, you know, kind of the same, but instead with the tails. Like the Zeus sign. That will work.
That would be a way to do it. That being said, the tail is already in that shape.
Well, yeah, but then you could double up. Double the lightning.
On a more serious series-related note,
始まりそうだな。
obviously, the reminder everyone, we have a audio issue for Gumayusi that was thought to be resolved but was not. And of course, during this time, okay, we are resuming soon. We've just been told, but during this time,
I like it when Wolf gets serious. That's when you know the pause is over.
Yeah. Well, the players can't communicate with each other about the game, so this is quite tense, right? Just to let people know at home who might not have known that rule, you're not allowed to discuss the game during these pauses. So everything that is happening, the next objective fight that's coming up, the lane states, all of that, you're trying to remember it and keep it in your mind's eye as you calmly wait for the pause to be resolved. So it is a very tense moment for both sides. A very big moment is upcoming in that first big fight. We talked about the level 6s coming online, and we'll be having it shortly as it looks like we're finally back.
Yeah, here we go. Onto the Rift for game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. It has continued for quite some time, but, you know, not a whole lot of notable things have happened. Some flashes being blown by both of these top laners, and it was looking like Zeus was getting the control. That last play showed us that Doran's level up that he showed us yesterday is continuing even in this matchup. His Gwen has been great all year, to be fair, but still showing that form was not temporary.
Looking at the sums available right now, neither top laner holding on to their TP, and it is very likely with 6 for Owner, we are going to see a fight around the grubs. Neither support is even close, as there we go!
Yeah, we are flashing in and flashing out. Here's Owner, so that's a flash for flash trade. I think Delight going to be okay with it. Doesn't have Hex Flash.
Well, the Wukong, though...
And he does have Spell.
Yeah, the Wukong, of course, does have... Okay, hold up.
Yep, Doran going aggressive once again.
レイスが6まで有利で、6までにどれだけ有利取れてるかで、6以降有利かどうか決まる。
Here with Carrier on the flank. He doesn't have 6, but just a root would be enough to deny Delight entry. And it looks like Hanwha Life Esports have just lost interest in the whole thing, and they're just going to give it over to T1.
Yep, not going to be grubs. Peanut instead just going to head towards this bottom side jungle. Look to steal that one away.
And maybe also worry because Doran does have his TP available now, right? His was a lot earlier on the cooldown. If that play had worked and they had been able to pick off Owner, I think they would have definitely gone for it, but not going to be the case as Doran is going to find each other, but obviously Zeus really wants to get a base in, only sitting on a tier as well, whereas Doran, we could see with those plated steel caps, really getting the better end of those trades.
A lot of value out of that one. Gold incredibly even, as we can see, is now Zeka moving forward. Peanut's here, though. He's even got cease and desist. It's going to be used by Faker as he hijacks it away. And there it is, returned in kind. And Zeka will finally claim the first blood.
It's a frustrating matchup to play as the Silas. You know, you get charmed like that, you eat that electrocute, and you feel like you have to go back in. You have to make it an even trade, or eventually just get worn down in the lane. But when you don't know where Peanut is and you make that call, Peanut every single time will come in for the punish. I think Faker just hijacking there, looking for something back, but doesn't even commit the flash, knows he was dead.
And the crazy thing about that play is it felt like not that they already knew they had the kill. It was just, do I have to use my ultimate, is what Peanut was doing.
Also, we just spotted Peanut on bot side. Like, he was spotted by Doran. They knew he was in the bot side, so I think that it's understandable, as you're saying, Wolf, as in a melee matchup, particularly with Silas who has so much sustain, you need to try and go in for that. But again, we knew he was there, and yes, his bot side camps are up, but it's Peanut. This is not the man that is just going to power farm, you know? If it was Canyon, maybe you get away with it.
He knows those pressure points, you know, and Peanut's very aware of this. And I think Faker's case, like, if he just keeps getting poked out, he's going to look for a play here.
Yeah, Charm is going to connect. That will save Zeka for now, but Faker actually still with his foot on the gas here in this game.
Just to contextualize further, if Faker's decision to go in there, I mean, he's 20 CS down, right? He doesn't want to just lose a few minions there because of that trade, because Peanut might be nearby. And that's the problem when you're falling this far behind in this matchup early, is you have to make risky decisions, and this time he gets punished.
Well, you can't make it anymore. Malignance is now in for Zeka.
Yeah, that is a really big spike. And in any situation where you have a mid laner like this, one that wants to dive and you have a Vi, as long as one of the two is fed, you're feeling amazing. Hanwha Life are really going to get a ton of value out of these double spikes here. We have the Sundered Sky, we have the Malignance, Owner, Faker, neither of them have it ready. So I would hope that T1 chooses not to go and fight this dragon. Seeing everyone path towards bot, I know that's not what actually is going to happen, but I think they are at a pretty big disadvantage when it comes to those items, and we'll see if they're able to navigate this play regardless.
Yeah, gold still extraordinarily close. That is only first one really in it between these two teams, so nothing really to worry about.
I think the Cyclone has to be game-changing if this is going to be a fight
ボットレーンどんだけローテ事故ったんだこれ。サポートも経験値負けてるし。
Alright, cease and desist comes out. Peanut just starting this fight as he flashes away. Pop Blossom to stop any sort of follow-up, as now Peanut is just alone in the enemy jungle. Bullet time comes through. It does get a bit of damage down, but it's not going to kill anyone. And now Faker, with that Spirit Rush available, looking to try and close in on the rest of HLE. What was that, Peanut?
Item spikes be damned. If you go in alone, 1v3 into the enemy jungle, having just 2 spike advantage doesn't really matter.
Well, now, Zeus is fighting against Doran. They, I was going to say trade ultimates, which I guess is kind of true, but Jace doesn't really have one. As Doran throws out the needlework, and Zeus is going to be feeling okay in this matchup. Oh my goodness, it is a Hextech haul, as T1 have 2 Drakes already in this game.
Doran going to get chased away here. He does have teleport, so it's not going to be the end of the world, but pretty annoying for that to be delayed. And yeah, I mean, Peanut's decision there, he thinks, okay, we have such an advantage that we can actually just force this and blow up a single target, and that will be the end of it. But you're playing into a Nico, and the zoning power here for T1 is just absolutely insane. So watch this again. Peanut does not have full information.
Goes
in, flashes the wall here, Keria zones the follow-up, gets the double root, and then Faker also and there's just not enough damage on this MF at this point in the game, and Peanut is just solo dead.
And it's the double root. It's also the fact that if the Light has flash, I think there's actually a world there where they blow up Owner, and then maybe the fight is playable. But we knew the Light didn't have flash, and without him having that summoner available, you can't follow up in time with where he was. So Peanut just too quick on the trigger. That means that T1 even getting a really big advantage when it comes to the objectives. And there are so many champions on the map that use Hextech well. It's Gwen, right? It's Jace on the other. It's kind of disgusting.
Not to mention, Peanut also loses Flash on that play. You know, Flash to try to escape still dies. Can't turn the fight around, so...
And also, they didn't really need to go that ham. We were already talking about the fact that they had these item spikes. You can play it slow and probably still win. You don't need to like go for the opportunistic play. As Zeus here towards this bottom side, dealing with quite a few bad guys in the area, but does have Delight over there. And Peanut once again back to that dangerous location. It did give him some trouble before, as oh dear, Gumushi could be in trouble, as once again, cease and desist comes down. He does have flash, so he's going to use it. Bullet time coming on in, as the Cyclone there from Owner defending. His AD carry, the flash not quite working, but now Doran throwing some needlework towards Peanut, will connect, as now Doran could be in a bit of trouble, fighting off his ex-teammate, but no one going to die outside of Viper, who fell unfortunately in the aftermath.
Beautiful collapse there from T1, and Doran tried to cancel the VIQ from Peanut over the wall with that flash. Doesn't quite find it, but the big story is, even though Guma loses his sums, Owner ensures that the trade goes the way of T1.
That was a really nice play there from Owner, still has his flash available, and you know, in this moment for Peanut, you're thinking you're the police. You're like, you can't be that far up. I'm gonna once again catch you. I'm going to punish. I'm gonna get this Callista, but at the same time, there is that follow-up from T1. They are in the area, and you don't have
今の
enough
使用量
damage
で
to
こ
actually
の
burst that
返しだ
twist
と
down
ちょっと
quickly
もったいない
enough.
ね
And so Guma kind of baits them in there, and it's 2 plays in a row for Peanut that looked like they could theoretically work.
もうちょっと成果欲しかったな、さすがにこれ。
Initial setup, especially when you look at where Delight is here too. Like okay, the rest of T1 is so far away on the bottom side, but Owner this close.
And the Magnet Storm did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, couldn't quite lock him down.
The follow flash to get the second activation is why Viper is the one who dies. Just can't do anything as this MF in this situation.
ピーナッツに2人とも F した
it
け
might
ど
have been better because they would have killed Guma, but I think the play might have been worse. So for Hanwha, the fact that Guma gets out there, they only gave up 1. If they actually spend the extra time with that TP from Doran, I think they could have been in some real dire straits, but it's still T1 building the lead, getting the objective control.
Yep, money for nothing. As
まあフラッシュ Q から入ってもクレンズあるからね
Strike,
別に
on a ward. They didn't know that he was walking over there as the Make It Rain coming on down once again. Taking a bit of damage as the Rift Herald is on the minds of HLE. Gumiushi level 11 now as Shock Blast does so much damage.
あでもチャーマ防いだ、チャーマ防いだ。
They're just in the blender this time.
無理じゃね
Making something happen as Doran gets into the backside.
ピーナッツがまた孤立した。
Peanut once again. And now the bullet time's going to need to save them. Gwen is immune, ladies and gentlemen. That's allowing Doran to survive. But the Rift Herald's still up, and T1 are going to take even more this game.
It's Peanut again, disconnected on the other side, but it's Owner who goes for the punish, and Owner has just been shutting him down in these big fights where there's just a big discrepancy between where Peanut is, the targets he's chosen, and Hanwha Life's ability to follow up at range.
It's the same play, except this time Delight is there, but he doesn't actually hit the CC chain onto Owner. Owner actually gets the, I think he W'd out. Let's take another look here. I'm pretty sure he W's out, so he doesn't actually get hit.
Yeah,これな、チャームがな。
There you go.
They burst the charm, or they burst the clone, but not
And then when Peanut goes in, you need to be in sync with at least Zeka. The fact that carry has zones
バイ行くならギリ、バイじゃねえ、カリスさんに行くならギリ分かったけどな。
But you need to be in tune
なん
with
で
your
向こうに
Ari.
突っ込んだ
That
ん
is
だ
the
ろう。
crux of this entire combo.
誰が合わせるんだろうあれ。
And Dust for Hanwha Life are not hitting the execution threshold, which is crazy. It's Vi! It's Ari!
And it's starting to look like maybe Peanut, like a lot of our other junglers, have probably given up practicing
まあ
this
ケリアで防いでるけど、でも無理やりいけるからな。
because it is
バイだったら。
just permanently banned.
And I don't think it's really about his mastery of Vi. I think it's about the team's lack of coordination
Well, I mean,
around it.
the team needs practice playing around it
Sure.
as well. Like, you need to keep that one well oiled.
They need to win this fight.
あ
And
あ
it's only a
分
1K
身削れ
deficit.
てかなり削れた読みまあなくもないね
Well,
実際
Peanut a little bit distracted there. Doesn't use any big cooldowns on the clone. As, yeah, they're not out of it just yet or anything like that. It's just some worrying signs so far in this game.
If they lose Drake, they are.
Yeah, Faker's hijack's coming back available. I think that was a small window there for Hanwha Life to maybe look for something and play through that choke, clear up Banana Brush, but they just kind of give it up. And if T1 get this, like you said, Soul Point, and that's a bigger advantage than the small gold lead that T1 has right now. The fact that they can play around that Soul Point, threaten it, because it's basically checkmate in this game, gives Hanwha Life such a large lack of agency.
And Hanwha Life, if Peanut was spotted on that ward, the Drake would have already been gone. Now he will have time to be in position, at least threaten the steal. And there could be an opportunity, but we need to see a more synced up Hanwha Life if they want to win this, as there comes Doran in again.
Yeah, teleports coming through from everyone. Zeka going to make his way over. Let's see whether
ケリアあの位置にいてもなカリスタのウルトあるから無理やりいった止めたドラゴンはジェイスでニコ死んでバイが死んだけどいやでもうわカリスタいいかこれ何サッカーあるんだあとあ出たわおうまい惜しいけどまあドラゴンは取ったねこのやばい時間にドラゴン取れたのはかなりでかい HLE
on the exit. It looked like Hanwha Life was maybe just going to be able to get that fight there around the pit, but T1 outplay them. The moment here where you see finally Delight gets the engage he's been looking for all game. The follow-up from Zeka, the bullet time is there, and the shock blast.
ウコン先に死んじゃったのか
You're looking for, but look at this.
ドラゴンより
split in the outset, and then T1 are able to punish.
But this is what you think. You can just exit from the play, but they want more Delight. 5 levels down, by the way. The burst from Guma and Doran just catches him completely off guard, kind of continuing his struggle. And then here, Viper, I don't think needed to flash the initial needles that came through.
Wow.
Oh God, the chain's gonna have to be flashed here by Zeus, as Faker doing so much work, and Owner is there with the follow-up. Hands the goat and assist, and they're going to look for a top lane outer turret.
It's again the side lane overload. We saw T1 do this so many times. Yesterday against KT, but also a lot in the last 2 years. And this time it's Zeus on the receiving end, instead of being the one that benefits from it.
Yeah, and you know, it's not necessarily going to be, okay, if Faker, if you want to auto that turret, he might not be getting out alive. But either way, the thing about the side lane pressure too is that those were the big leads that Hanwha had in the top and mid lane. The solo laners had the big advantage. Now T1 win one fight, just get a little bit of power on the map. And now you can't even clear vision safely as Zeus here on this Jace when the collapse is going to come through. You're not safe. As a Jace, I mean, Wukong top used to be kind of a counter pick to this champion, but you're just not going to get away from this monkey when no one wants to kill you.
Man, this is very intense, but T1 going from strength to strength after their victory yesterday, looking like they have not skipped a beat. 3,000 gold, the lead here in game number 1. And game number 1 is normally a pretty happy place for HLE.
That's why they have really excelled. Now the thing for T1 they need to be careful of, because this is a comp consisting of basically only squishy champions, right? There's a decent amount with the Shroud, the health that comes through for both the Wukong as well as the Sylas. But you need to be careful with that Vi in particular. The CC chain is still there from Hanwha.
ただ AD の経験値だと、まあトップレーンの 1v1 がきついっていうところが、まあ似てるね。あたかんは絶対取りたいね、HLE 経験値の問題上。これあたかん取られると終わる。
T1 has the lead right now, and it gives Keria so much agency in this game too, because you're playing a dive comp with this Ahri Vi. We want to go on to a single target and blow them up, and then Keria could just wait and re-engage and ruin your whole setup so easily and give T1 those opportunities. You know, the Nico obviously very strong in this draft, great with Kalista, powerful in lane, but so strong when you can also then, you know, hang out in the front and deny those engages just by being in the area, and then get Fates called out as well. When you're ahead, T1 have so much power.
Well, right now, Viper is just trying to hold on to the sliver of health this outer turret still has remaining, and Zeka could be in trouble. Spirit Rush picked up here as Keria comes in. Charm is pretty nice here and is going to land. And Keria now taking a huge chunk of damage. This could be important with the Otacon up and available. HLE looking for an opportunity.
Zeus has TP, can join at a moment's notice. If they wanted to try to say, hey, you know, 2/3 of Keria's health bar is enough to take an Otacon, but I just don't think it's the call here.
IE done now for Viper was really waiting, and if he already had that done, I think they might have actually tried to pull the trigger and at least force a fight. I don't think you can, from this position, actually commit to the Otacon.
Especially because Keria can back and get back so quickly with the Hex Gates as well, which is a big factor here.
We do see, yeah, Viper, that IE is good, but like, how much does he actually get to use it in the fights? I think that's going to be one of the big issues, because thus far, T1 have already been kind of taking him out of the game, and it kind of reminiscent of what T1 did yesterday to Dokdom, with so many backline threats that they have on this team. And you're an immobile AD carry, and I'm sorry, but just that Bloodthirster shield is not going to be enough.
Never got it.
And he also only has some brown bags here as well that were free. But it's not quite going to help you as far as maneuverability is concerned, even with the ability to strut your stuff.
The cleanse isn't going to be enough, and the flash isn't going to be enough. You need your team to be there.
元で伸びるのどうせね、そのうちね、バグでしたって言って多分治るよ。
Well, they're going to look for it here as Delight going to be able to use that blast cone, but he's down incredibly low and will get taken down. Possible overextension though, as the Orbit Deception does a lot of work, as Faker dashing around the battlefield with his hijacked Spirit Rush. Now Pop Blossom is going to find only one, but it says that is a great target as they're looking for the shot. The bullet time doing massive damage, but Doran now looking to get on top of Viper, who is completely alone and will get eviscerated. The wallet's so heavy here for T1, and they just take HLE out of the fight.
It was the fake out from Keria, the double fake out. It looked like it was just the clone coming towards them, but it was him.
It was him. Zeus tries to react. But the biggest part of this is Delight dies, right? If you have that Magnet Storm, so many of these things go better for you. Maybe not the bullet time, because I think Viper couldn't have gotten any more value than he did in that one. But there wasn't any follow-up. They were so split. So Viper, the misfortunate immobile, and now Zeka clashing with Faker.
Yeah, Chain's not going to connect here as Delight will come in, but so will Keria. Magnet Storm picked up by Faker here, taking a fair bit of damage, but they've taken the soul point. They've gotten exactly what they want. And Faker is able to keep himself alive. 5,000 gold now, the lead for T1.
So the whole thing here is Delight coming forward, gets rooted, buffers it, gets away, but they know where he is. Faker's just not going to give him even a second. No space here. Comes in with his ultimate. They get the knockout.
仕掛けるまで早いこれミッドに見えてるからもう絶対無理だっていう判断で突っ込んだら。
And Zayas tries to boop him away, but the damage is done. And Viper, he gets enough space from that hammer to actually channel his ultimate fully.
いや MF は多分だいぶダメージ出てるよこれそもそも MF しかダメージ出してないから
Just didn't have the damage.
MF のウルトはダメージが出てる
But T1, as they often do, when they get in this position where the game is just messy, there's fights happening everywhere. And I gotta say, if you're Ari and you're playing into double clone and a shroud, that's annoying. Yeah. That's not fun.
Look at this guy, just sending Merc Wolves into the enemy jungle. Kind of love this from Carrier. Very cool stuff. As all right, Doran going to get jumped on here by Zayas, but he doesn't look too worried about it. They do get into the circle as Doran just blasts his way out of there. No flashes, no flashes on Doran, but it's only Faker that's missing it outside of and Carrier on T1, but Gumayushi having his, Ona having his, very important here for T1.
I mean, T1, they're going to have Fate's call back in just 10 seconds here, and they have full control over this choke point. They don't necessarily need to start Baron, but they are going to keep Hanwha worried and interested, and that's big potential.
ただ MF ラストイスパー欲しいね。全員靴が旅だからな。
I think with the misfortune
靴の強化がマジで効いてるこれ。バイのダメージがちょっと足りないし、MF のダメージもちょっと足りてない。ジェイスもだけど。
It's making us look back at that draft and think, you know, perhaps something with a little added range. Like the Jhin could have worked.
Yeah, I thought the Jhin was the right call.
I gotta say though, when I look at how the early skirmishes played out, I don't know if anything that Hanwha could have picked could have made the difference,
it's
right?
It's a good point.
アーリーが3コアになって16で足りるか。まあ、ポテンシャルはあるね。足りるかって言われるとかなり怪しいんだよな。グエンマジできつい。
And as an AD carry, the most value you're going to get, and this scenario is Viper's obviously just getting that one good ult, but the light has also been struggling, so that's not really happening.
I don't know if the Jhin would have helped Peanuts overextensions in those first few fights, which is really where the big story is here. It's not like Viper's having a bad game. He's 0-3-2, but that's because he's MF, and that's because his team is behind into this insane engage composition here from T1 with melees that
Speaking of being ripped to shreds, Peanut gonna try and get over the wall, but the flash is there for Owner, and he just knocks down the Vi. There is nowhere that Peanut is safe.
すごいな、バロン側じゃなくて下のジャングル側で敵のジャングルに襲われてだとまあマジできついね。これはもうしょうがない。下側のファームでこれやられるとマジ無理だからな。リソースが絶対に足りないもん。
There is also no jungler. So
let's see
whether HLE can try and kill T1 before they take this Baron. It looks like it's going to be impossible. Under 4,000 health as Delight goes in, finds the Magnustorm. Let's see whether they can get the kills with the Pop Blossom. Doesn't do too much. They take down the Gwen, but this is still Baron picked up the T1. They go to the fight and they're looking to try and turn it. Gumayushi takes down Zeka. They've dealt with this Rel at the same time, and T1 say we'll just take everything.
Well, there you go. That's probably the game-winning play. They already had such a massive lead. We didn't expect Hanwha was going to be able to win that fight as Carrier potentially punished here. We're getting trolled by the observers. Owner going to check it out.
Oh, dear. No, I think it might be Peanut getting punished here just a little bit. Slowed down by the Rend. Nimbus Strike going to be coming up pretty soon here. And Faker comes on over. He's just going to escort Owner in and escort HLE out of this first game.
And we can talk about the drafts. But for me, it's just the form of Hanwha life. They look desynced. They don't really seem like they were ready for the high-tempo playstyle that, again, T1 has been playing towards this exact type of skirmishy, brawly style for a while. Now this fight, we kind of knew it was.
グエンの落とし方マジで良かったし、MF のウルトの形が良かったから。
Yeah, I mean, Zayas is looking for shot glass angle and some time. Faker doesn't let him have it. Carrier his ultimate
いけるかなと思ったけど、ちょっとフェイカーマジで強かったなこの集団戦。
Because T1 have full control over this area. Peanut wasn't alive. He wasn't there, and right afterwards he tries to punish, and he dies, and now he's not alive here for what is going to finally be Hextech Soul here for T1, and this game could not be more over.
It could not. So that is going to be the Soul picked up here for T1. They're going to be able to push in this bottom lane. They've already taken the mid lane inhibitor, and Zayas, he's looking for a bit of bounty gold. And I assume T1 are okay with him taking it because it's not going to save his Nexus.
We had 2 T1 predictors, and on our global side, we had several 3-0 Hanwha predictors. Hanwha Life came in as the massive favorites, but T1 having the momentum carried on from yesterday into this first game for sure. I think a lot of people are rethinking expectations after this one.
Yeah, me included, feeling a little bit silly for some of my opening statements here because it did feel like HLE were the better team before, based on our assessment. But momentum is so powerful, and T1 in this stadium, man, just feels like they are unlocked an extra level. And Faker now picking up a Magna Storm for himself. That is going to be 2 inhibitors. This is, of course, feeling like a little bit of ceremony because this game is all but over. That is going to be a bit of an engage on Doran, but he does go into the mist and now looks to fight 4 people. Going golden here. Those big old scissors doing some work. There is the MF ただ無理だ。そういう次元の話じゃない。Just slaughter them in their own house and they'll destroy it at the same time. T1 1-0 in the series.
From the perspective of Hanwha Life, you got reverse swept. And you end the game that I think you should have been happy with when it comes to draft, with a clean ace, and really a lot of fights that just didn't go your way at all.
I mean, in terms of momentum and mindset-wise, I don't think you could be any lower as Hanwha Life after, like you said, getting reverse swept, that puts you in such a abysmal position.
でもまあ中盤のバイの仕掛けがちょっと事故りすぎてテンポを取られすぎちゃったね。なんかもうちょいサイドのジェイスとかのレーンを楽にするためにウッド使えてたりとかならまだ良かったけど、集団戦のキャッチにフォーカスするのに急ぎすぎてなんかずれてたな。
Yeah, that is not what you want to see. Thankfully, they have Mowgli there, they have Dandy there, and maybe they can help Peanut out of this rut. I think a lot of it came down to not expecting that Vi to be left up, not having too many plans in this game, number one. And HLE may be scared of another reverse sweep because now that's impossible. So I guess they've ticked that off. Maybe that's the code.
That's something, at least.
I mean, we need to clutch at some straws, don't we? As, you know, people that predicted HLE. We'll see whether they can bounce back. Time for us to take a short break. When we get back, we'll see whether T1 are going to continue their onslaught here in Busan.
いやドラン序盤から良かったけどな。いいね、グエン自信ありそうでいいね。 FP だしな。ここのなドラゴンの集団戦だけその HLE のやりたいことがしっかりできてたけど、でもまあミッドゲーム以降はマジでフェイカー劇場だったな。仕掛け方がマジで良かった。
우리 이번에 바텀 밀 수 있어? 바텀 밀자. 바텀 밀어. 얘네 라클 구리긴 한데 한번 해보자. 해보자 봐. 미드도 오긴. 매우 없어. 레일만 조심 뭉쳐있는 거. 레일 노플이 레일 풀 돌았다 이제. 나 괜찮아. 나 또 볼게 이거. 타워 쳐봐. 나 괜찮아. 할리 맞아. 맞다. 다음
マジでいい当たり方してるけどな MF のウルト。
나이스.
いやー FP 倍でこれはちょっときつかったね。まあ難しかったね。 いや、まあ、バイうまいと思うよ、別に。噛み合いの問題。ただ、噛み合いの問題、まあ、まあ、練習してないのは、まあ、間違いなくあるだろうね。息が合ってなかったからな。本当に些細なことだからな。勝った方は前日はやらない。もう終わり。これは最後。何対何予想難しいね。これもうバンピックでだいぶ変わっちゃうね。負けたら MSI 出れないよ。まあ、勝敗にすごい左右しそうなのはアリアじゃん。じゃお。ランブルはね、まあランブルもかな。まあランブルもかな。レジオネー多分開かないからあんま気にしなくていい。レジュジャックスかな。
New magic trick. Open Vi. And they're completely lost. They don't know how to deal with Vi, right? Like, what's happening?
And the thing is, you know, normally in this situation, Red side is kind of banning Vi for the whole series.
Yeah.
And now it's just off the table. You know, you've dealt with it. And you kind of wonder, okay, maybe there was like a thought process, because they obviously went into this planning to leave the Vi open. And, you know, Vi, not the best against like Gwen, Wukong and Nico also. It's kind of hard to pin them down because they have the clones. It's hard to like find a time where you feel good about ulting them. But it really felt like the big thing here was Peanut just had a horrible Vi performance, and it felt like he was uncomfortable on the pick.
I mean, I feel like they had the early advantage with the Ahri and Vi making a successful gank on the mid lane, but look at this Vi ultimate.
And the thing is, Owner still had his clone out of this. So like, what was? I have no idea what the game plan. I mean, clearly they wanted the follow-up, but it was just so far away.
And you know what's worse? It's gonna happen again. The same thing. Once again, you're gonna ult Wukong and flash out.
これなんだこれマジでわかんないな。このウルトマジ謎だな。
I really don't know what's their idea.
まあ確かにウーコン激浪だったけど分身は。
Skill usage of Rel was kind of off as well. I really don't know why he's just demounted every single time before the team fight.
And the thing is,
1回目のウルトはまあギリ理解できる。なんか久しぶりにバイやって味方とのラインがちょっと合わなかったのかなぐらいのウルトだけど、2回目のやつは純粋に判断がおかしいから。
to Zeus and managed to answer back and had a great game from there on out. And if you're first picking this Vi to do that, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I mean, both those picks that T1 got back were the ones that were zoning out the follow-up after Peanut went on in. The Gwen having zone control over Zeka. On the opposite side, the Nico preventing Delight and the rest of the team getting on in. And then T1 take control of the rest of the game here. And it is an exclamation point for what is to come in the rest of the series.
Yeah, again, the setup is off. You are not allowed to walk in there if you do not have the mid priority. And I think they should know that, but it's not happening. The T1 comp is all about just jump over the wall, chase them down. They have Silas, Wukong, which is really great to just chase them down. And also, they're not dropping this Drake as well. They're just still desperate to fight for this vision control when Jace has no flash, and you cannot win this fight clearly.
Yeah, they end up getting the ult. It's a good flash from Viper, but Zeus doesn't have his. He gets caught. And then here, Viper, like the ult, this is one of the few ults that actually gets decent value.
これもな、くっつかたすぎて MF のダメージ取ってねえしな。
in his face, the MF just can't really do anything, and it just feels like they kind of fall apart. And considering, you know, they had a strong start with the Vi Ahri, typically a really powerful combo. The first 3 picks for HLE in this draft, I feel like there was a lot of power for them. They must have been feeling confident, and it fell apart so quickly.
I mean, again, they are underperforming, clearly, because I feel like Zeus should win this matchup harder. Because I feel like I just saw Doran being just completely okay after the first laning phase, because he was just literally same CS, and he was getting the priority against Jace.
これはね、あったね。マジで多分このマッチアップ練習したんだろうね、ドラン。レーニングマジで良かった。
in this game was all about the misplay. And I think you have to just, all right, just forget about what we did in game 1 and just reset your mindset and just going into the next.
I mean, go back into that right before we had that first pause. It was Zeus flashing away from Doran in that 1v1. So surprising to see the come up here by Doran. For many people, maybe not the T1 fans, but for many people, because of how dominant Zeus has been throughout his whole career, and specifically this LCK season, leads the league in CS, leads the league in experience within the laning phase.
And I mean, obviously HLE, this is all showing from them. You know, they just got reverse swept by Gen G, maybe still reeling from that, but for T1, this game was cleaner than honestly any of the games they had against KT. It feels like they just go in from strength to strength on the back of this and had a really strong performance there. And if this form continues, it's not just a question of them beating HLE, but looking towards MSI, they'll have a great run there if they continue playing like this.
Yeah, 4 game losses in a row here for Hanwha Life Esports, but don't fret. The team that has won game 1 every time here in Busan has lost the series. That said, they're going to have to do it against T1. Let's find out. Game number 2 starts right now.
Oh, Dagon, that is my kind of sample size. Oh, baby. Because we've only had 2 other series. But still, he is absolutely correct. The reverse sweep that does seem to have stayed with Hanwha Life Esports. Still in their minds. The best thing is, Dagon did say 4 game losses in a row. They can go to 5. And still be in with a shot.
Yeah, I think one of the things I want to make sure expectation-wise everyone watching kind of realizes is that despite the fact that the game was incredibly stompy, based on drafts, it was always going to be when one team pulled ahead. We could have had the exact opposite scenario if Peanut played a bit measured, wasn't going in like that, or Delight hits a few more abilities, and Hanwha get a massive lead, and they snowball the win. I don't think Hanwha fans should be worried necessarily, unless we see another one of these in game 2. I think it's the type of game that makes T1 look incredibly strong. Well, they played really well, but once you get to the latter half of that game, it was almost a foregone conclusion. So let's see, as we move into the second draft, what Hanwha's form here is in game 2.
Yeah, it's going to be the resilience tested here for Hanwha Life Esports. And we've seen they don't really seem to care too much about losing. Let's see whether that continues here on this particular stage.
Peanut and Delight in particular, I think need to step it up after that game. Viper, definitely Guma got the better of him, but I think part of that is also the matchup and the fact he was playing MF.
まあ万引的に別に負けてるわけじゃないからな。
But Peanut needs to step it up. This player is very important for how this team functions. Because we have highlighted the contrast
取ったチャンピオンが仕事してないだけで、ブルーサイドの強みは十分受けてる。ランブルすごい見てるね。
I'm not sure if I can still say that about Owner, because he did kind of go haywire. Was 10-1, I think, near the end. But more often than not, their job is to facilitate early action and try and make sure that these skirmishes go the right way, as this is a clear Rumble B1 setup here for Hanwha.
Unless the Trundle is banned, in which case it's a clear Scion B1 pickup.
ランブルの対面はマジでいないね。まあ、Scion
in this final spot, and that would of course likely just ban T1 or force T1 to ban Scion in that third slot. As
there it is.
And so that's what we're gonna see. So you can ban Scion here unless Doran has something prepared into it, but the Gwen is already gone. Doran not known to play Nidalee in the top lane, so I imagine they'll just take it away.
But if you ban Scion, you do play into the Rumble, right?
Yeah.
Which, that is definitely something that's quite scary, especially with Gwen already taken off the board.
See what they do decide.
まあセージジャックスがかなり見えるね、これは。
It is the more frightening of the two options. Let's see, it is going to be the Rumble. So there we go, Scion up and available. Can just be locked in here for Zeus.
He's not necessarily a Scion type player. He doesn't like to play tanks as much, but I feel like Scion, the mastery we've seen in the LCK this year on this pick, you can Zeus Scion. Like, you can be aggressive, you can trade aggressively, you can win lane on Scion for sure.
まあジャオでもまあいいけどって感じだね。サイオン、ここサイオンなんだ。
Which I'm kind of down for.
You think
what if they
just Camille TF?
Could you, I'd love to see it again. They won't be able to get the Trundle alongside it, which is also phenomenal in that. I mean, that
so
draft
fun.
Was the quintessential perfect 1-3-1. Was so beautiful to see it, but we're not going to see an exact replica of that.
まあバルスとかがまあ
other picks like the Rise, the Victor were ones I think T1 were considering.
まあジャオも取るじゃあ。
to this first part of their red side draft, just because they're champs that can side lane really well. I mean, you already know that Scion is going to be on the Rift, so his side lane is very strong necessarily. He gets the later parts of the game, and Guma will get his hands on the Varus, which does give a roar through the crowd as it's one of his most famed picks.
Yeah, particularly right here.
タンク出てきた時のこのバルスのプライオリティかなり上がるな、マジで。
I do think that it's going to be a different flavor. I think it has to be the on-hit version if he's ever going to get through this.
Oh, for sure. Also, the Xin Zhao is open for Peanut. Xin Zhao Victor, to me, makes a lot of sense. The Victor theoretically should have a really good matchup into the Rise, be able to bully it out, outrange it with a pretty substantial margin. You can also do this, and it is Zeka, so I am completely okay with this.
And I also imagine Zeka is probably a bit mad after the last game because he didn't play decently well. Instead, he just plays Victor, which is a little bit of a shame, but I think makes so much more sense in the context of this series.
I agree.
Because taking the Victor away from
もうこれはもう残りのピック次第だな。ジャングルが3体以上取れるんだったら、まあトップレーンだし、トップレーンが3体以上取れるんだったら、まあジャングルだし。
Just to lock in the Pantheon and prio that, so you can have double global with Rise Pantheon here.
どうだとライズがよく選ばれるのか。ライズはそもそも弱いチャンピオンじゃない。死ぬほど難しいだけ。
You just side lane pressure, you have that global to back it up, and you just blow up the carry in the back line when you engage in the team fights.
There's still the off chance that this is
プロゲーマーぐらいじゃないとあんま使えないから、ライズが多分普段見かけないだけ。
I just feel like we should mention it because it did happen before. But
the Camille ban is so obvious here, right? And the Xayah ban furthers like the same sort of identity where you're like, okay, I'm going on the back line. We've got a Victor here that's fairly vulnerable. I don't want them to have the Xayah, that extra safety. So it does make a ton of sense. You could also ban Ezreal here, I suppose, in the same vein as T1.
I don't know about Vayne. Haven't seen her.
No matter who I'm casting with on this, it does it to me every time.
Did you catch that cool cinematic?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Vayne. She was in it.
I mean, she's in the cinematic, and we all watched the Uzi video.
I know.
Yeah. The Renata ban is interesting here. As far as Renata is really powerful in lane, but
I like
Renata
it with
value,
the Nico band already.
Yeah, well, the Renata isn't that high value against Hanwha's comp in team fights yet. So that's the part that was a little bit puzzling to me. But I do think it's a strong laning support. But Keria, we know he has a few range supports he does like to play.
Let's see what he's thinking about now as Gumayusi's pick is to come through. The Poppy.
Yeah, this is
Could
almost a
まあサポートっぽいけど、正味サポートをラストピックに回してバードとか出しに行くかなって思ってたから、バードとかまあスパイクとか出しに行くかなって思ってたから、トップレーンに行く可能性もあるこのポッピーは。
And then maybe Nautilus is one that you could look towards if you want to have a guaranteed way of locking down that backline. Leona is still open as well.
Leona feels a little bit safer here, especially because if you have Leona in this, you have such a great front line. You have Xin Zhao, Leona, and the Scion, and you just engage from far away, and the Jin can follow up. But the Nautilus, I think,
ジャングルもあるね、確かに。
I want to save it for later.
サポッピー、サポカさんってまあいけなくもない。
I
mean, it is, yeah. Okay, it will be it.
And this is purely because the Poppy was on the other side, looking like it was possibly heading into the support position. And Vest are going to be locked in. And now the question mark is still between the Poppy and the Pantheon, but Ono's Pantheon has been so incredibly good.
なんかいいチャンピオンいればね、ここ取りたかったけど、別に特にいいもんなかったな。
He's going to be more omnipresent. He's going to be able to follow up on the side lanes a little bit better. We'll be able to get into the backline. We'll just have more farm to access the Jin and the Victor. Just more powerful as a champion there. The Poppy, much more utility-based, is going to still be able to make that impact with their ultimate in the jungle. Can be decent into the Nautilus, obviously, is great.
HLE はビクター次第だね。ビクターがディールしなくちゃいけないから、この構成。
I like this setup with Keria on Poppy more than had it been Owner's Poppy.
Oh yeah.
And T1 is playing a very similar style, right? We have a Keria in the top lane. We have a very brawly kind of
エイトロックスも悪くないね、実際。自信があったらエイトロックス出るかもね。ただ、雨だから、まあもうちょいなんかチームゲームになんだろうなって。
But I think part of it is how much is saying we are going to play it safe. We're going to play a lot more around Viper. We're going to get a consistent team fight comp. And we are just going to match in the 5v5, which last game they weren't able to.
Yep, and I think you say around Viper, but I think a lot around Zeker as well. I think this composition does kind of scream, Zeker played really well in the last game. Let's all facilitate that and see whether he can take us over the line, because the Victor is going to be doing so much of the damage in the later stages of the game. We'll see how well the Jin is going to perform, but we know sometimes struggles on those numbers later on. And T1, once again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they've got carries coming from just about everywhere and ways to really mess up these fights. Let's get into game number 2 and see whether T1 can get to an early match point.
T1 하나, 둘, 셋.
Oh man, you really get an idea of how many people there are in the Sajik Indoor Stadium here when they do the T1 fan chant. You absolutely do. This place was shaking.
I'm pretty sure that's also the same skin, and he's on the same
構成の時もバックラインを狙うか。ケースバイケースです。
LNG when he found the
ファイトの際に公営を狙った方がいい場合は公営を狙います。前衛を狙った方がいい場合は前衛を狙います。
When our mutual friend Mr. Draco said that he's just better. That was right here.
I was also in the arena when that happened.
I was here as well. And I think I had hearing issues after that.
That was a good play. Taking a look at the rune setups here, I don't think we see anything too surprising. Saka going for Ari for maximum attempt at keeping the pressure in that lane. And Keria, he is perhaps the biggest enjoyer of Spellbook. This man, I feel like on every single champion where you don't strictly need something else, has been going it.
Yeah, and is going to give you a lot of power, especially because how well Poppy can just straight up TP to an objective and ult 2 people away or just ult the jungler away. I want to be able to be anywhere at any time with that teleport. And the double smite, obviously quite powerful when you also have a Varus, as Guma has proven in the past. Did go for Comet in this game. Did not go for lethal tempo despite the Scion that is on the other side. Just knowing there's a ton of damage with this Rise, I suppose. Feels like he wants to hit those backline targets. Victor, follow up on the Pantheon. I suppose that's the idea.
They do have a lot of damage, and
持てるんだったら多分魔導書持ちたいけど、魔導書だと多分柔らかすぎて耐えれないんだと思う。CS のためにめっちゃローになったね。それでの上で CS は取れてないね。基地。
I know all of you know. We know. But still, nicely done there as Guma.
Okay, Guma in a lot of trouble here as he's lit on fire. Delight catching him off guard there just a little bit. We don't have a lot of context as to what was happening here. As Zeka pushing Faker underneath the turret. The Victor actually doing a decent job here in the lane thus far. That death rate starting to hurt.
Yeah, Guma just wanting to get that last wave, but unfortunately will not get it as a result of that ignite. Can't stay for it anymore, so a lot of minions lost. I mean, he's sitting on 6 CS.
That's a really big deal. I want you to look at the experience bar as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's a whole level behind, a full level.
Okay, that's insanity. Still, the wave is stacking up, and at least Carrier will be able to get a level or two, but still, I like that we're checking out the Zen lane. As I say Zen, my god, Doran is so close to dead.
Like I said, you can Zeus this now.
Yeah.
Sion is very strong.
He is going to eat a potion. That should help him, at least momentarily.
The roar.
Yeah, the roar of the Slayer, cutting that armor down really does mean that that Q hurts a lot.
He still has Cookie as well. Zeus is really, I think, feeling confident. Peanut, this is even, like, with Zinzo, you can't dive this. He does get pinged, so I think that they do have a suspicion. Peanut not going to run the risk. I don't know if they know where Owner is. Owner, of course, now currently on that bot side, Krabby.
Yeah.
Scary moment there for Doran, though, for sure.
Yeah, so things going okay as far as the laning phase is concerned, but that is not what HLE had. Like, that wasn't the problem that they had. It was coordination in teamfights and skirmishes where the issues started to crop up, and that was where T1 started to excel. Speaking of which, Owner comes towards this mid lane as Zeka has a decent amount of value on the gravity field, doesn't have to use the flash, but had just teleported back to this lane. That is a big deal.
It doesn't feel great when you come back to lane and lose most of your health, and now struggling to get the trades you were looking for. It's too high risk. As question mark pings going down here on T1 on the location of Peanut, tracking where he is well here as the lane swap does come through. Carrier is going to have to babysit this wave here, but again, so much farm lost. Once again here for Guma, finds himself now nearly 20 CS down.
20
He's not going to get this whole wave either.
At 5 minutes into the game, that is a very large number. Still, might be able to get some value from this lane swap, and there is a cannon up here towards the top side, and he does get it. There's the piercing arrow to lock that one down. So Gumisha coming on over, and Zeus might park himself in this brush, but of course T1 did that little strategy yesterday, so I don't think he's going to get caught off guard.
No, you can see Guma stand still. I'm pretty sure he just was kind of waiting for Zeus to walk out. Not going to fall for it. As we have both teams, I think, looking towards that dragon.
There's such a huge hole in the top and bottom lane in terms of farm right now, in terms of experience. There's a significant lead, obviously, still there in that top lane, but Dragon is going to go the way of T1 here. Timings of these resets, later back for Zeus, and this is Carrier coming over with Owner, and obviously with the best on the bottom lane who hits level 6. There's no real opportunity. To the bottom wave here to catch on what he can, but the Dragon still goes over. So once again, T1 full Dragon control in this series.
Still, I feel like HLE have been really good at picking up every minion wave, so getting maximal experience in this game thus far. As Doran's looking to go a little bit aggressive here towards the bottom side. Farming Cinder now done for Zeus. He can continue pushing things pretty comfortably.
It's interesting, though, that T1 basically had 2 losing lanes and was still able to get Prio on the objective, right?
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
It's with the timing of the resets, like Zeus reset so late and didn't have TP and then just ulted down, and they were like, all right, because Doran went first. Doran had TP bottom, and I think that's a big part of why Hano were not able to contest there.
ドラを無視してトップレーンに続けると、トップレーナーがフリーズされて CS が死んで、ウェーブが溜まったところで、タワー下で耐えれるトップレーナーがボットレーンに到着して、で、魔導書のカウンターガンクも来るから、スワップをせざるを得なくて、非常に理にかなってる、このスワップは。
T1's strong suit. But Hololive this time around can be very happy to just kind of sit around until they've hit like an item and a half at least. with the amount of scaling that they have. T1 obviously still have elements that scale well. I think the Rise is a no-brainer. Poppy
窓所じゃなくてもサポート用のローテでどうにかなるんだけど、窓所があるとすごい楽にできる。
As a cohesive unit, I do think you can struggle as you get towards the later stage. And if you have to fight 5v5s against Honwa, and you can't get on top of Viper, things can become very tough.
Well, speaking of things that are tough, Zeus here underneath his outer turret in the bottom lane. Ooh, Roar the Slayer going to get blocked here by the Scion. Sorry, by the Ambessa. That's going to deny a bit of that farm. Zeka dealing with Faker here in the mid lane, who did creep towards that bottom side. That's why we were saying that Zeus could be in trouble, and still he might be, as Owner is in position.
Faker as well,
yeah,
threatening.
Commit, but they're just going to get plates out of this, and it's going to deny Zeus a lot of farm. So this is still a big win, even if they don't get to kill Doran. It seems to deny it back.
まあこれは純粋に遅れたね。開幕でリコールさせて多分ウェブのまあここら辺に関しては詰めだから。
Do you really care that much as T1 if this does go over? I think the answer is probably no.
Yeah, a lot of damage from that dancing grenade, but like you were saying, Grubs going to be the trade for a decent amount here towards the bottom side. As Zeus is just trying to play that weak side Scion. And here is the Realm Warp in as Faker off to the side, doesn't get hit by that Q, and in comes Owner to finish him off. First blood going over to the Pantheon as a teleport. Does come through. Actually, Zeka just walking down towards this bottom side as Faker just executes himself, denies the money to HLE.
That's huge. And you know, if that Q hits on the Realm Warp, it's a little bit different, I think, for how the story does eventuate, but Faker's able to avoid it. And that's a big win. You know, no real loss here for Hanwha Life. Or sorry, no trade back for Hanwha Life.
I feel like the only cross map we're getting is Peanut.
Red buff?
Getting red buff.
Yeah.
That's not really what you're looking towards. Zeka got close, but not actually getting it, and still committing his flash, right? So that is a even trade in summoners, and obviously a big trade down here with, I think, so close as well, Zeka to trying to get on top of Faker's. Uh-oh.
There's depth charge, and there's Pain CC. I think he's dead. Yeah.
They got him this time.
Yeah, they did get him this time.
死んだ直後の
One versus one as far as those kills are
ウェーブを
concerned.
プッシュしたタイミングで相手のフリーなタイミングで眼光食らう。1回死ぬと2回死ぬんだよな、このゲーム。
He will be, at least for now, okay. And that is just going to be the Gromp stolen away by Peanut. Viper here in this mid lane actually getting some plates himself. So that gold lead still going to be there for HLE.
Yeah,
all plates actually going over here.
3回目はね、あんまりない。
Another on the bottom side.
Peanuts here and Viper has
ターンが終わるから、
so
基
there's
本。
no way you could try to collapse there and punish that. So that was a really good judgment by Hanwha Life in that situation. Zeka gets the plate, they get the kill onto Faker. That goes over to Viper as well. And we'll see how this did.
どうやったら防ぐか、この経験値を捨てる。
Delight on the other edge. Delight flashes for the ult, and it's really easy to just chain the CC together. Nothing Faker can do.
Very straightforward play there. Nicely done. Good roam by Delight and Viper. And what we're seeing now, I think the pivot from Hanwha that they made in draft is warranted.
だからどっちみちなんか不利だから、だったら前出て経験値をロッなるんだよね。
Right, we've seen this team really excel when they can just keep accelerating the pace, keep catching people off guard. This comp obviously still does that insanely well with the double global, with the Poppy. So if you ever have a moment of weakness, if you're not ready to contest an objective, you can definitely get in trouble. But this time around for Hanwha Life, the engage is amazing. The front to back is really threatening. And now, at this point in the game, they can go for the side dive. That's not going to remain the case.
I think for T1, speaking of the objectives,
全然ワスじゃないけど、取りに行くよねっていうだけ。
Not set up for this one, and Peanut's just gone.
Case in point.
We just knew like exactly what was going to happen here in Hanwha Life. We're only really half contesting anyways.
It's a bit early.
Hanging around.
Yeah, this dragon is going to be secured. Deadly Flourish not going to be enough to stop that one. And it is going to be an Ocean Soul, not the most pivotal, but still something worth going for here as T1 are set up. Only one away from Soul Point here in this game. There is still so much pressure.
They got Doran's TP, and he's still going back to the top lane. They're not going to send Faker there, so Sion going to get some alone time here. And that's a small win that Hanwha get back, but still T1 once again stacking these dragons.
Well, Zeka here on this bottom side catches the wave. Faker lying in wait. We'll see whether any sort of jump scare will occur. Looks like it's probably not going to be too much of an issue as Carrier moving into the enemy jungle. I don't think he's going to be able to stop Peanut from taking away his own blue buff, but still getting so much information and vision on this Poppy.
The Carrier is saving a smite for more important matters, such as stealing dragons.
Indeed.
Still,
Barons.
Barons, Otacons, really anything that actually tilts the game in favor. Viper, definitely the most ahead member here for Humble Life. My question is, how much are they actually going to be able to use that? Because the Jhin, obviously the ult is going to always get a crazy amount of value with the amount of frontline and CC that you have in your team. But actually walking up to so many of these characters on T1 is a really, really big task. And Doran, thanks to the attention that's been paid by the rest of his team, has actually been looking good. And I think a lot of this does go again back to the fact that we haven't really seen Peanut still in this series. And he's normally the guy that gets stuff going. And it'd be fine if Zeus is sacrificed and Viper is really put ahead. But this lead is fairly negligible.
I am more interested in Zeka being ahead. The problem with Zeka being ahead is going for a very safe build here with the Rod of Ages. And not going full damage.
Trying to connect here is, okay, they're going to go for the chain CC. Carrion tries to move himself out of the way, but Peanut locks down that kill and just caught napping here a little bit. The Poppy. So Carrion now lying down might be a big in here for HLE to try and get this snowball rolling.
Yeah, they might just look to try to somehow get this full turret as they look for owner.
Yeah, another hook does come through. There's the audacious charge as Faker is off to the side to make this an actual 2 versus 2. But Zeka comes over to make it 3. Gumi usually a little bit later. The Arcade Storm, not quite enough as the Chains of Corruption comes in and Peanut taxis his way out with the Grump. Knocks it up there as well, but Roadhog is coming in. Peanut does have to flash. There's another hook. He's going to come through as Viper. Has to cleanse as Kerry is back once again. Okay, keep his verdict. Does get him out of there. Now Baker's one left alone. Zeus turns up. Enough of that funny business, says HLE. It's Viper that gets the kill.
And
what
this time, this time T1 is the one trying to heavily overcommit to a play. And they get punished massively.
Yeah, I mean, Peanut initially looks like maybe he has this. We're not done yet.
All right, there's a Grand Starfall underneath the turret here onto a gravity field. As Ona, he can't tank the turret anymore, and Peanut in a good position this time. Huh?
Yeah,
what?
Not really sure.
That was my analysis at the end. I put the analysis.
I'm on this. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Not really sure about that one. I mean, it's only 4 stacks of Rod of Ages for Zeka, but it's not about the build. I think just about the fact that there wasn't great follow-up there, and you're going.
If he doesn't do the damage, don't worry.
I do think that this right here, this is just how it works with T1 Ascuma. Does he have Nimbus Cloak? I feel like that's why you would barrier there to get out.
What?
I mean, maybe he thought Delight had his ult back up because his ult just came up.
Yeah. So
Nimbus Cloak
well, yeah. So you barrier, so you get the movement speed from Nimbus Cloak, and then you walk it off.
He has a Ghost Blade as well.
No, I think with T1, they always go for these plays. And in game 1, we see it work out. In the series against KT, it does, and it looks amazing. And now here, we're just left scratching our head and go, you could have chilled out a little bit.
There's been a bit of, you could have chilled out a little bit on both sides throughout this series.
Yeah, Peanut's the same.
Yeah.
Because this isn't really the kind of Jhin snowball we were talking about. This isn't really quite the same sort of like, I wonder how they'll use that. Like, oh, the Rod of Ages on Zeka, you know, it's not a lot of damage, but we'll see how it works out.
細かいミスでちょっとずつ少なくなってるな、ゲーム。
Opportunities to Hanwha Life with misjudgment on how much damage they have in these situations. Faker down flash as well now feels pretty bad. And for Hanwha Life, you know, a few minutes ago you were starting to feel like, okay, this is going to be a tough one to play out, but now you're feeling so much more comfortable.
This could be a little bit dangerous though, as Doran looking for an opportunity, but the Zinzao is here. The knockup comes through. Wind becomes lightning. There's the knockup from Zeus at the same time. As Doran might be able to flash his way out of here, but Zeus is right over the top, looking to try and chase him down. But remember, it's an ambassador, so he has better running away.
But I want everyone to look at the vision on the top side river right now, where Doran was pushed up past where the turret's husk is, where it's just tons of vision for Hanwha Life. None for T1. A very aggressive call there that nearly backfired. Loses his flash.
いける。あ、後ろって飛んだ。バレてない、しかもこれ。どうなるこれ。ライオンのウルトない。どうしようこれ。いや、ポッピーウルト次第だな、これ。わーウルト。わー
That is going to be killed on the other side, though, as both mid laners are now lying in the dust. The curtains have been called, and T1 has split the flash forward from Delight as now Zeus turns up to be that monster in the front line. But Carrier is still being a menace. Zeus is looking to lock him down. As Gurushi over the wall is getting the pot shots in. Viper now singled out by Doran, who still has a lot of damage, and Zeus will be cut down where he stands. HLE once again losing a team fight.
And it's just way better coordination here from T1 in these moments. The flash
ケリアが一瞬見えて、いやっていうか今のはやっぱ LCK カメラって感じするな。
You see the flash from Guma over the wall. So starts off with Carrier here, over the wall, channels, flashes, gets the double knock away, and that's the Scion gone here. And then look at the follow-up here when they look to collapse onto Guma. He's able to get over the wall, which is so critical to do the rest of the damage.
And I think Viper, those shots, it's a Pantheon. You're just never going to get him if the E is up, trying to take him down. And then obviously once you get to this point, you're just a Jhin trying to run away. Even without the ult, Doran has no tough time getting on top of this Jhin. And they knew that Carrier was there. They were just caught off guard by that ultimate that single-handedly secured them soul point. And I don't think they were out of the game, but they were definitely falling further behind. The 5v5 looked good for Hanwha, and now, all of a sudden, Gold Lead is negligible, and there is that soul point. And Ocean Soul and Bessa, Ocean Soul Rise, it's a little worrying.
It's just these same T1 best of 5 stories we tell. It's the same objective control that they've been famed for across this roster. Again, with a different top laner now, but the rest of the core is exactly the same. And that's something that takes years to build. You can't just build a roster and put Zeus into your roster as Hanwha Life and then have that same coordination. I think they're very close, and their team fighting's been insane.
いや、フェイカーは全然悪くないあれで。てかまあ、そのフェイカーに行くこと自体がそもそも相手にとって得な選択じゃないから、得な選択じゃないことを迫らせてる時点で、まあ悪くない。そこで捕まってるとかが重要じゃなくて、ここに来るなら死ぬけど、まあ味方死ぬよねみたいな、そう言ってるだけ。全体で見てワースだからそれは問題ない。
As HLE thought that they'd been able to knock a couple down, right? Zeka and Faker were traded, but then you still have so much more damage available on T1's side.
And from this point on, the matchup only gets better. You have the armor penetration on your passive, or in your ultimate rather. You have Black Cleaver and Eclipse, and you're a full level up.
Yeah.
So, yes, Zeus is going to still be tough to get through for some of the other members. Obviously, Guma is a big one. And I do think that once Zeka hits the second, and particularly the third item, there are still plenty of opportunities for Hanwha. They still have a decent setup in gold, but they need to find an answer. This Poppy specifically, I think, is what really brings this T1 comp into we're T1. We can really get away with any situation that we like territory, as long as they don't let multiple members get
ただ、戦い方が難しいのは今の集団戦でかなり分かったな。ポッピーのウルト、綺麗な刺され方しないと多分勝てん。もしくはアンベがバックラインに入るか。今回、ジンの F ないから、まあそれで入るっていうのはまあなくはないなって感じ。
At the end of the day, T1 pulling ahead in this one
フェイカーのロアあと3分。あれ？おー！いいね、それ。めっちゃいい。わー。素晴らしい。ドランマジでチャリやん。さて、いけるかこれ。あたかに。F ないから。
Okay. Yeah, so it was, figured out that Carrier was there. But that's probably still going to be out of comp. Peanut doesn't have smite, or does have smite, but doesn't have flash.
Carrier has smite as well.
There's no shot. Like, there's Ultra Carrier, there's 2 smites. I don't think they can do this. I guess they're
さすがにきついか、
respecting the TP from Zeus and the fact that Jin exists, and they're
Yeah.
not going to run the risk. And also Soul
お、で
Point
ストップ TP?
Yeah.
is
これギブ
already
だ
there.
ったな。
Soul's coming up
これ
with
多分ギブ
40.
だ。
Yeah, 40 seconds,
Correct.
and I think they know that if they do go for the Otacon, they need to go for a reset, and they won't be able to get there for the soul, so they
So
want to go for
Viper-
that instead.
The reason why this happens
No,
is
no,
because
no, no,
Viper's
no.
trying to follow up on Zeus'
ドラファイト
fully
か。
channeled
まあでも
Q
バイパー
to
これ
TP.
F 上がるから
But Doran just
次のファイトをまたうまくやるっていうシリーズだね。
He's Ambessa. And it was just a big mistake there. I think the idea on the punish is definitely with a lot of
でも
other
ピーナッツの
champions.
F がないのは
correct,
結構
but
でかいかも。
Sure, they get the shutdown, but it's just a big miss. And like you said, there's a salvage by Peanut here, but it still means T1 have full control. They take the safe call on the Otacon. I don't think they necessarily had to, but why throw this game away? Now you're even in goal. Dragon in 5.
2 item spikes done for Zeka. And this is the point where I think Humble Life, they're going to get this 5v5 win. Carrier again. Can they find
いや、
him?
お、あ、飛んだ、いった、さっきと同じことしたけど、これはフォーカスがあんまり良くない。オーナーが、あ、でもバイパーまでたどり着いた。けど、これライズの DPS ちょっと足らん、これ、今回は。あ、これ良くないね。うまくできませんでした。
He is out of range of these shots, and now Zeka is 1v1ing against a Poppy and kind of losing. That was scary. And Kerry is able to walk his way out. Still this time, HLE find a fight.
ライズがね、これライズがめっちゃ育ってたら今の戦い方でも勝てるんだけど、今回はライズ育ってない試合だから、この殴り合いの仕方だと勝てない。
And there's the 5v5 we were looking for Hanwha. They deny the soul. They also deny, as Delight is on the ward. Do take note. There's no rest here.
Death charge going to come through here, but Faker just decides he wants to kill Zeus, and he might be able to do so. Gumiishi in a fair bit of trouble as Zeka distracted by the Poppy once again. Viper now looking for an angle. Deadly Flourish, will it be? And he doesn't quite find it, but he doesn't need to. It's a double for Zeka, and HLE running away with it now.
At T1, they try to run the play back, but this time Alma says, come on, you can't do this to us 2 times in a row. And now the game firmly in their hands.
So watch Carrier here again, looking for that same play. Gets the flash, but only hits Peanut. If he hits Delight and Zeus there, maybe it's actually a better angle. And then the follow-up here from Owner, where you feel practically immortal, is pretty nice, but it's the turn here from Hanwha, where they actually peel back and deny Doran, giving Viper that space. And then the fight gets split up, but Zeka is also pushing Guma out on the top side. And once the Jin is alive and has free reign, he can pop with shots like this. If Guma hits this arrow, Zeka dies, but it was just such a great call from Hanwha to peel back, take out the Ambessa, and then front to back it.
So this obviously, there's a TP coming in, so they're happy to take this fight. Nicely done by Delight, also get the cancel. What I want to highlight is the positioning of that fight. Last time we saw that play, 2 people got knocked away, but it also was in the wide open space of the river. What happened there was they tried to follow up. There was a free man queue from Zeus there, because what are they going to do? Not try to back up their Ambessa, not try to back up their Pantheon, but as a result, the fight from river, and that is a gold grab I love to see.
Yeah, that was certainly a little bit of a flat line.
Up and down and up and
あの
down.
指導だと別に何をしてもって感
You
じ
can。imagine that this entire stadium full of some pretty high BPM at this point in time. Zeka moving towards his top lane, going to extend that gold lead just a little bit further forward. As HLE looking to try and take some control of this game. After game 1, I was a little bit worried. HLE looking a little out of sorts. Even in moments in this game, same thing could be said. But it might be that there is game forming on our hands. We might need a hand check, but we could do that a little bit later.
Some series?
Yeah, there could be some series. Yeah, we did jazz hands there just to let you guys know what we were up to.
Always do it.
Yes, just like this. Yeah, like this one, guys. No game just yet, as you can see, but we'll see what crops up later on in the series.
So, I mean, Baron is the objective that's up right now, but, you know, neither of these teams in a position to take it. Even with a 2-item victor, you know, it's not something you can do fast enough. You don't have enough control. So the next fight is likely going to be on this Dragon, unless something happens, right? A proactive play from Peanut, he gets a pick, or they're able to threaten a turn. That could be how Hanwha Life want to play this, but they are, again, denying vision of T1, forcing T1 to be in this area.
Yeah, Carrier.
TP.
Yeah, they're just looking for Zeka, and he is
a deep TP.
He is a long way away from everyone as he flashes towards Owner. The rest of his team is coming up though, and his health bar is pretty high. He's still alive for now. The death charge comes into public execution. Misses onto this.
グワイスキル外した。ウートも外れて E も外れた。ちょっとこれ勝てないかもな。形はいい、でもスキルマジで当たらん。
Delight might give himself up, but the knockup is there from Zeus. He's trying to stand in the way, and Zeka might get executed.
うわ素晴らしいゾーニャ 9? まあワースこれでこれだったらマジでワース
As 3 for 3 is the trade, but it is only really the tanky members alive from
ほらめっちゃ頑張
HLE.
ってた
Gumayushi is still terrifying on his signature Varus.
And also domestic Doran is unreal.
This man, who is this guy, Wolf?
I mean, this guy is popping off in the fight, and it looks really messy because you can see the TP here from Doran and the owner ult means you think you've collapsed on the Zeka. Rumble comes through, but Zeka gets over the wall, and there's so much peel, there's so much follow-up here. Carrier's ult completely whiffs, hits nobody here, and now you're in the blender of this Victor doing so much damage freely, but
大事故かましてた割にはマジで良くなったこれ
Victor's unsalvageable here, we're not going to be able to save him. We're going to take out Delight here, and then Guma has so much power. If Zeka tries to duel Guma, he could just get sniped because he's so low. Doran goes in on him here. Doran playing super well, and Zeka with the huge outplayer. Q comes in for Zeus, and also the Zonius means he does go down. Without his calls in that fight and how he split Hanwha Life up and how their decision to give up Faker there, I think this fight was a wash, and Hanwha Life would have crushed them.
I was not ready
サモ
for
ス
the
ペの
flanking Varus.
サモスペ見れるの
That
か
really got me.
ジンバルスはもうマジ上がんないな バルスライズは上がるぞこれ
A lot of sums are down for Hanwha. I do also want to highlight the restraint of Zeka on his stopwatch. That was actually insane. He waited until the arrows were in the air, but even before, I think a lot of players would stopwatch as soon as that play starts. But he really went for maxing the damage as another fight for the soul here, at least for T1, if they can get back space. But I think this is where Hanwha Life's comp should really shine. When they can get that front to back, Faker looking on the flank.
Let's see that carrier ult. That's the most important part of a lot of these
うん
fights.
そうだねポーク入れるとかマジで大事ポークができるんだったらポークもしたいけどポークはちょっと厳しいだろうなこれ
He's got the
あドラゴンギブしてミッドタワーもまあそんなに悪くない選択としてあ飛んだどうだこれライズすんごい入り方したでどれが飛んだサイオンが飛んだサイオン飛んだサイオン飛んだの悪くないジン死んだジンいかああ手前からいったわおうんま
An insane fight here for T1. They were certainly going to look for the smite for the soul. Walk Peanut down, but they get the Scion instead, which is basically team fight winning in itself.
And the damage numbers might belong to Doran and Guma, but again,
コーディネートがマジでいい
Yeah, man. Carrier just removes that front line, and then they can't do anything about it. They rely so
パン
much
テオン
on
が飛
having
ん
that
で
big tank.
サイオンは飛ばされてフェイカーはフォーカス受けてでドラゴン放置されて P 様が虚無になっちゃったいやこれはうまい
And that's Baron as well.
Yep, I think the only thing that hit Gumayushi there actually just ate his Edge of Night Shield to give him that little bit of extra value. He was otherwise completely untouched in that fight. 15 to 15 is the kill score, but it is the amount of objectives, it is the amount of control that T1 has in this game, now with Baron and the Soul.
I mean, practically speaking, T1 have lost one fight on objectives throughout this series thus far. It's just been their objective fighting that is so much better than Hanwha's, whether it's defensive or whether it's these tricky plays from Carrier. Man, now they're looking for a bit of a collapse here. Realm Warp not ready for Faker. I think they're just going to push Hanwha away.
Yeah, and look at the damage dealt numbers. This is absolutely insane. Both Gumayushi and Doran running away with it.
ちょっと空気だな
By like a large margin as well.
But he has hit some of the best buttons.
Well, I mean, he's got them to soul.
ジャオに影響されない集団戦がうまい T1
It's insane.
It's ridiculous. In the mid lane, we've got the top laners trying to face off, but Chains of Corruption comes down towards this bottom lane. Delight probably lucky that anchor didn't land, and T1, the war of attrition is just being won on their side.
あ、ETP これはかなり ETP
Gumayushi could be in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have his shield, and he doesn't have a whole lot of hope, but he does flash. And the train is not even going to get the stun.
避けてはいる避けてはいるジャオ止めたあ、でもここはジャオの強さ出たあ、ダブルないあー死んだなんだ何やってるすんごい後ろオーシャンソウルオーシャンソウル
on the other side of the fight, and things are going completely wrong for HLE on the top side. Delight trying to get out the flash in front from Carrier. He's just gorgeous.
神のチャンピオンだろ
Doran can do no wrong here in Busan.
And why Hanwha Life is firing skill shots into the nothingness of the rift. Doran is 1v2ing.
Yeah, I want to have a chat with Aslan, man. That guy's getting hit by everything there in Narnia.
Oh man, Doran is just having the series again, just like he did yesterday, that you couldn't have predicted coming into Road to MSI. Not to say that the guy was weak, he was still one of our best top laners, but to see him do it this well and to really be on peak form. Yesterday we thought, okay, maybe it's because he's perfect.
いい仕掛けだったけどね、今の TP。今のバック TP からグマ狙いに行くのはマジでいい仕掛けだった。ジャオの強さも出たし、この時間じゃなければ強かった。
Yeah, this is so much faster. This can't happen. This can't happen. Miss that. The Q gets fast. But you need that ult. He needs to get knocked up, and then Peanut also doesn't follow through on the W. And because Guma lives so long, if they kill him earlier, I think that they have an opportunity to peel off way faster to shift the damage, get cooldowns out, and then on the other end, as mentioned, this Ambassa with Ocean Soul, it is disgusting. The flash from Carrier to ensure it that his top laner doesn't get CC'd. The sustain from the passive from Doran as well as that Soul is...
that was blind as well,
kinda on the ultimate. I mean, it's a good
play.
He knew the trajectory.
Death Dance, baby.
It's a risky call, and he goes for it. A few things miss here, but ultimately I don't think it matters. You know, hitting that flourish would have changed things. Carrier, the bodyguard, and Doran cleans up house. Man, T1 looking better than they have, I feel, all year long in the microcosm of this series.
Carrier with a big smile on his face here, and you can understand exactly why. They're looking at match point here in Busan. After destroying KT yesterday, the onslaught of T1 is looking to continue.
There's coordination that this roster has built over years, and there's also the strategy element of these drafts that we're seeing, the Poppy coming through.
All right, Zeus, his health bar is looking a little bit large, but let's see how long it lasts.
マジかそれ。おバイパーまでいけるそれ。ライズが飛んだ。すんごい。これはどう？こんな感じ？いけるね。
It's a double already for that man in the top lane. Zeka gonna go golden, and just watch as T1 rolls over the top like this wave that is just attacking them in their base. Viper, yeah, I think probably sticking around on this fountain is going to be the right idea as T1 will move to match point here and make it possibly.
この試合はちょっと負けだかなと思ったんだけど、ドラゴン前のポッピーの仕掛けからうまくやって勝つ形マジでうまかったな。
Someone's out of position, and before you know it, reinforcements come in, the stall comes through, and the team fighting from T1 today is just outmatching Hanwha.
T1 completely on form as well. And even though in these first two games, Faker's felt a little quiet, he's doing his job well. And on the rise, your Realm Warp has so much utility. So sure, if you're maybe down on lane, the Victor's doing more damage than you, he's bigger than you, it doesn't necessarily matter. If you can make those rotational plays, if you can play the map better, if you can play the objectives better with this Poppy, and it feels like you couldn't get more T1 than how they may earn their spot at MSI. Their Game 3 draft yesterday, this draft here, they still got picks like the TF, Faker's Galio.
こういうゲームチェンジャーピックマジうまいな。
Just one win away from a massive upside here. God! And Doran, man, he's playing against the guy who replaced him. And I think right now he's definitely sitting on top.
Yeah, domestic Doran is an absolute thing to behold. And we might have an opportunity to see a new and improved international version if they win just one more game here today.
Clearly, Doran's biggest opponent wasn't Zayt, it's still Krugs.
Yeah.
To this day!
Yeah, as far as the top lane tier list is concerned, it's Doran followed closely by Krugs, and then the rest. It is time for us to take a short break. When we get back, the space is going to break that one down, and then we'll have game number 3. See whether Hama Life Esports can put some game on these damn hands.
パンテオンの役割はメインはテンポだね。先に動いて先に仕掛けて先にっていうその先にを担保するチャンピオン。 バルスの脅威とエースは、まあ、今、大体の競技心は、もう9割型脅威。レーンが強いから、なぜなら。レーニングの価値が上がったから、レーンが強い脅威の方が、まあ、好まれてる。タンクに対するダメージは、正味パッシブを3つつけて、スキルを当てたら別にダメージは出るから、もう AD キャリーしかダメージ出ないみたいな構成にならない限りエースになることはない。何々だからエースがいいんじゃないのとか、何々だから脅威がいいんじゃないのっていうのを敵を見て言うんだったら、それは1対5でゲームをしてる、お前は。オケ今チームゲームで、プロシーンで味方がいる。お前のソロ級にはいないかもしれない味方がここにはいる。もしはライズがダメージを出すし、アンベッサがダメージを出すし、パンテオンがダメージを出す。
나이스!
ライズのウルト範囲にいるのに乗れない時と乗ってる時の違い。ウルト中にライズが CC 食らうとウルト止まる。だからノーチラスがフラッシュインして Q してきた。
强者从不止步游移，只会以力量回敬。
6万スキン買ってないな。全く使ってないアーリを買ったんだけどな。カイサのがまだやるんだけどな、俺。
其之名，自当高歌。
T1 are up 2-0 on Hanwha Life Esports, and the wonderful city of Busan has been holding the road to MSI. But and it is the greatest
P 様がもうちょい主張できるような状態にならないと厳しいかもね。 ただ、チャンピオンいいもんもらってる状態で主張ができてないからちょっとむずいね。
They actually did have some fun. Those first 2 games against Gen G, I think they enjoyed those. And then it all went downhill after.
Yeah, I mean, like especially I think I really like to see Doran popping off. I feel like the whole draft plan is about Doran today as well, because I think he picked Gwen first, and then Zeus tried to pick Zace to win the lane, but he was completely okay in the lane. And the second game, we all know that he's gonna blind pick Sion on the blue side, but he just picked Ambessa into it. And I think he had incredible performance in the game too as well. So I feel like it's just top gap is just that huge in this series.
I mean, I feel like, you know, it would always feel good to play against, you know, HLE as Doran and beat your old team, beat the player who was signed over you, but to also just completely gapping Zeus right now. Like, it must be a great feeling. They must be on cloud 9. And honestly, T1 have just been playing so well. I think Carrier also, this Poppy pick that came through, the amount of value they got off the ults. And we often see teams, as Poppy's been more sort of enshrined in the meta, playing around the ults quite well to kind of deny it. But the amount of times he was finding these great angles and using like the flash ult combo to minimize like reaction time against it. They kind of knew he was here, but they found this angle around this control ward, and the flash ult just gives no reaction time, immediately removes 2 members, and now Zeka, this Victor, is just completely exposed to this Varus ult and gets shut down.
I mean, you gotta know that T1 they were just behind the game because they were over.
まあ T1 がうまかったね。T1 がうまい中で、でも一番その主張を出さなくちゃいけなかったのは、まあヤオだったかな、多分この試合は。
Especially him ulting away the Sion, which is the main front line for HLE. I mean, that was the huge part of it.
うまくやってた T1 に対してのカウンターがちょっと少なかったね。まあオブジェクトを触る時間が長かったから、まあしょうがないっちゃしょうがないところもあったけど。
constantly making plays where you're kind of wondering, slow down just a little bit, T1. However, they didn't get punished enough where they fell too far behind and they didn't stop taking their shots.
悪くないよ。それはもちろんミスプレイしてるわけじゃないし、そのセオリー通りのちゃんと正しいプレーをしてるんだけど、その上を行かれてる状態だと勝てない。それも続くんじゃったら。
I mean, I feel like I love T1 as a sort of team who'll approach a team fight in a way where everyone's going at different angles. I mean, you see the Realm coming in, you see Doran in the pit, you see the Poppy ult starting to come through. It's so hard to respond to because they're approaching from so many sides, and it really puts HLE in an uncomfortable position. Doran goes straight onto Viper, while Zeka is also being attacked, and it means HLE are scrambling to deal with all these threats at the same time.
俺も見てる限りで別に夏のそのポジショニングだったりは間違ってないから。
Mind game winning play on Sion was just that huge. I mean, I think Zeus was like I will try to soak the Poppy ulti with my ulti, but Keria just pre-cast the ultimate before he gets hit by Sion ulti, and I think that was the game changer right there. And I feel like the old objective control from T1 this series is just amazing, especially for game 1. We're gonna see it for now. They got the Ollie Drake into the second Drake, and they dropped the third Drake to get the turret. That means they're just controlling the game like all over the place.
Yeah, it feels like the pace of the game really has been in their favor, even when, you know, maybe gold has gone in favor of HLE, and we saw that in this game. We saw maybe the gold going a bit towards with some early plays not being in their favor. It felt like the objectives were still on their side, and the fact they were able to get this Ocean Soul, which was such an issue because you have that Ambessa, they were struggling to cut through already. Once the Ocean Soul was secured, it just felt like they had no damage to cut through that frontliner.
I mean, just look at the graph, you know, they already got the 3 Drakes, so we could see that HLE was so desperate to get the last Drake at the end, so that's why they lost the mid priority, and also they were not in position to have a good fight. So that's
まあ
why
開幕のドラゴンのところはちょっと修正したいね。 1個目、ファーストドラゴン。フリーは良くない。まあさっき1試合目はスティールされたけどさ、あの形はマジで良くないね。レーン勝ってたから、とにかく。今回に関してはトップミッドボット全レーン勝ってる状態で、ファーストローって負けてドラゴン取られたから、あれはマジで良くない。そこは明確なミスだな、別に。からドラゴンプレッシャーで、ドラゴン前の相手のこのうまくやれるポテンシャルの高いところで戦わさせてやられてるから。
Which means it's time for something different. Hanwha Life Esports select red side. That's right. They're going to try to use the red side buff and sneak away some of the wins that we've seen so far throughout the road to MSI. Will that be enough, or will it be the clean sweep that we did almost predicted but picked the wrong team? Let's find out with game number 3.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I think that this is a fantastic idea. Not necessarily because red side is inherently stronger or anything like that. HLE just need a change, and we are jumping right into the draft.
Remember, just 2 days ago, it looked like Hanwha Life was going to blow Genji out and be our first seed.
Yeah.
They have now lost 4.
This is exactly where they were.
I mean, they lost. They got reverse swept 3 games down there. I've lost 2 here, so 5 games in a row.
絶対レッツじゃない
They
だ
have
ろ。
lost, and now
うまくやって勝った側が赤でまたうまくやって勝っただけだった。
champions, defending first stand champions. A crazy position to be in mentally right now for these 5 players.
And we are going to see Zeus counter. That's why we're picking red side. That's why we're banning champions. That is what we're looking towards.
Yeah.
I think that we have seen Doran be miles ahead of Zeus in that series, and in this series. It's happened in series in the past, but let's not forget in 2024 it didn't really happen. And I think that the fact that Doran, with all the doubts that were surrounding him, showed up the way that he did today is huge. But we did see a turnaround from Canyon, and just 2 days ago again, went from being, I think, by far the weakest point, which right now I would argue is Zeus, missing skill shots. Even going back, I was talking to Atlas. He tried to ult the Poppy ult in that fight where he got knocked away, and he was just a second too early, so you're not unstoppable, you do get knocked away. As the Ornn also taken off the board, I'm looking at the Rumble that is still open. Not going to give Doran that, which does make sense. A lot of the other top tier blind picks already taken off the board. The Jax is one that you would go towards. The B1, Annie?
Okay, T1.
Well, it certainly, you know, suits the same story we've been telling, is Faker being a setup guy, a facilitator, and, you know, the ability to just drop timbers on people and mess up a team fight is very flexible. You can run several different types of drafts with this, so it doesn't really show anything here, and I feel like given the champ pools and the bans on the Taliyah and the Azir, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, the Nidalee is going to be instantly locked in. That could be Peanut, that could be Zeus. We'll have to have a bit of a wait and see. Where that one is going to be going. As the Lucian, the consideration right now feels like a pick away alongside a good pick for Viper. Leaves a lot still left up though, especially if Owner wants to get his hands on something, although of course the Nidalee can still be in jungle.
I do like it. I think that T1 is looking towards Nocturne. Owner really prioritizes the Nocturne. Nocturne Annie is a devastating combo.
Oh,
but instead, Desire Rakan, a classic obviously here for Guma and Keria.
So easy to follow up on a Tibber stun with both of these champions, whether it's a Feather pullback or the knockup and charm coming from Rakan. So you have insane engage here.
まあちょっと後ろまで見たいよね。これニダリーがまあトップっぽいけど何やるのかなって感じだし。
Nidalee spears can be an issue. We knew the Braum was going to come through here. Seemed pretty obvious. And now I wonder if we just see a Renekton ban here from T1.
Hey!
Hey, there they are.
There you go.
Wait, so Zyrakan, they're in the game. Wait, you guys have got to get ready. You gotta
run over.
Rift.
It says Guma please play Zaya and Keria please play Rakan.
Yeah, but they need to be leaving because they need to be in Runeterra.
Well, there's not that much time left.
Exactly. It's sticking down. I guess we'll wait for the next round of bans. It'll be fine.
I think that the Renekton here still works in this draft here for Hanwha Life Esports, but it makes it relatively all in on mid-game power, as the Owner target there on the Nocturne you were talking about is a very strong ban, Chronicler.
Yep. The Renekton probably a consideration here, even though the Nidalee can be going towards the top side because of Zeus, and we have to remember that. Twisted Fate actually going to be what is taken away. Twisted Fate Nidalee has been a tale as old as time in the LCK and around the world.
Yeah, some 2020 Damwon shades, obviously. Also into Zaya, I think the champion is just kind of crazy. It's so easy when you get our... We saw that literally done by T1, so they are like, we are not falling for that same trap.
主導権っぽいけどな、感じ的には。ゼドマジ評価上がったな、ジャングルゼド。
Oh, they watched the LPL finals yesterday and they're like, no, we don't. Owner, I'm not even joking. He still has talent. We saw him pull it out recently. I think he is going to be looking towards an aggressive AD jungler. Lee is another consideration. The follow-up that you have with the Lee on the Annie is obviously kind of crazy. And they're going to pick a jungler here, right? Unless they want to keep hidden where the Nidalee's going.
Yeah, that might be the question mark here. And of course, a blind top lane pick is not what we're expecting. We're expecting Zeus to make that final call after Doran has locked something in. There is the Galio picked up. Oh god, Camille is left up and available. That could be something that Zeus could go towards, but Doran is also just coming off a phenomenal game on the Camille.
諦めレネクトンじゃね?
Yeah, it's really tough to try to
諦めレネクトンか諦めなだけど。
expecting the Camille.
あ、まあそいつでもまあこいつらしかない。
The Scion is fearless band. This is probably your angle here, and you do have, you know, again, relatively low damage. Like your low range with the Xayah, she's going to do a ton later on, but the Annie depends on your team fight scenario whether she's going to do a lot of damage or not. The K'Sante can definitely help with that. But it does feel like we know where the end of this story ends. The biggest question now is what's that jungle carry pick for Owner going to be?
Jungle 何やんの?
There are a couple of options.
ジャバン? 本当か? こいつ本当かな? このジャバン本当かな?
Necessarily the type of champion that you think about. I do think it's synergized with Annie because Annie can go for the stun, giving you a guaranteed flag and drag. There's obviously also the Cataclysm.
まあそうだね。そっちの方がまあ。
That's what I was hoping for. There is the lead to pair with that Annie and to give the outplay potential. What is Hanwha going to lock in here?
Oh, this is Camille. It has to be Camille.
It's right? Camille or Renekton, right?
That's a horse.
Peanut Hecarim.
I mean, Camille is hard to play into Lee Sin.
This is not a Game 5 Hanwha for Fearless. There's a lot more available. Instead of going for the Camille, he looks towards some of his favorites, the Aatrox, and then ultimately the Gnar. The old counter pick to this K'Sante. Not a lot of setup for the Nidalee in this draft, though. And in terms of lane pile, you're winning out on the top side with this one for sure. Mid lane, get a little bit back and forth. I think Faker should be able to have the edge if he could continue to apply that pressure. But this is the first pick. Nidalee feels like it kind of ended up in an odd spot at the end of this draft.
And it's one of Zeus's most iconic. It's a champion
悪くないな。でも最終的なこの形を見ると、アニーがすごく悪くない状態になった。ナーとニダリーとルシアに強い。このチャンピオン。
That wasn't enough. Genji played around that Gnar bar expertly. He was never really able to generate the leads that he needed to. And the champion has fallen out of favor, I think for good reason. The Peanut Nidalee though, I do think Peanut from game 1 to game 2 had a giant glow up, but he's got to be more active in the early game. He's got to control more objective if Hanwha Life want to give us an opportunity to at least get to a game number 4.
And he's up against Owner's Lee Sin, his most iconic champion. This guy's got a skin on this pick, for heaven's sake. This is going to be a very difficult game. Giving T1 blue side is such a crazy thing to do. HLE have made themselves a pretty cohesive draft off the back of it. But is it going to be enough to keep their hopes alive, to keep them in with a chance of getting this ticket to Vancouver, to MSI? I don't know whether it's going to be enough because that
ルシャン・ブラウンがかなり勝ってくれないといけないし、ニダリーがニダリーがリーシンに勝つっつってもな、もう別になんかそれなんかもうむずいけどな。
Hanwha fans trying to be as loud as possible, but the T1 fans obviously drowning them out still here at the Sujic Indoor Gymnasium.
And what we thought could have been a new era of a new dominant LCK team in Hanwha. You know, sure, they didn't win the World Championship, but won their last domestic title, won LCK Cup, won first stand. Might be cut short right here after being one game away from going to MSI. Hanwha Esports may just simply not go there. And no road for this squad.
It'll just be Gen G T1 again.
Oh yeah.
We have to address it as well. I think that BLG's regular season not that great. G2's regular season not that great.
応援団長みたいな人が
locked in for MSI, guys.
コールしてくれる。
I just want to put it out there. I know it's something that we often talk about, and it's just the glow up. This T1 is just not the same one we saw in the regular season. And in hindsight, it kind of feels obvious. We always put up the possibility, but the fact that it actually happens and through the back of Doran is not something I necessarily expect.
I mean, I'm very personally, you know, close to thinking T1 might have been able to do it. Remember, I predicted them in regular season at the end. I was very correct. They did not beat Hanwha in that final match. I thought maybe T1 had passed them. Perhaps they needed BO5 domestic crowd, you know, live event Doran to get it done. But T1 are just looking super clean. They have such a good read on the meta right now. And it's great to see more depth here in our LCK. If you're a Hanwha fan, you're hoping you can stop that momentum.
And it goes both ways, because as much as T1 have leveled up, I'm also not used to seeing Hanwha just straight up miss skill shots, the light missing lances. A lot of fighting here.
That heal's going to be thrown out here on both sides.
いや、ボットにバチバチだな、マジで。シビアなレーリングしてる。
Zeka and Faker fighting it out here in the mid lane. The Galio versus Annie matchup is not one I'm super familiar with, but should be something that should be fine for both of these players.
Viper fairly low here.
Yeah, Gumayushi actually getting so much from the Gleaming Quill. Getting all of that health back. Did drink his potion, of course, but Viper is really struggling here in this lane right now.
This Gnar is so important in this draft. I want to talk about it for a second because we had, remember, the consideration of Peanut playing something completely different. You know, it might not have been Hecarim, might have just been a funky hover, but playing the Nidalee top into the Cassante would have given you a lot of lane pressure, but this comp doesn't have that much damage, right? I mean, it's a Galio. If you play the Nidalee top, your team fighting gets a little bit weaker. And so now Peanut is so important in this draft on this Nidalee to be able to hit spears later on for controlling objectives. That range advantage is really only him. And if your Lucian falls super far behind in lane, things could be really disastrous. As Doran aggressive.
The hop does come on through. As Doran down below 100 health, the hyper proc comes in, but says, oh no! The transformation happens at exactly the wrong time. Still, Peanut is going to be here as Doran underneath the turret, not hit by the spear. And the wave crashes. They don't know where anyone is on the map, and they do not go any further.
And with the shield, I don't know if it would have been enough, but it definitely would have been extremely close. Could have been the opportunity, but as you highlight, he just transformed at just the wrong moment.
Just one more auto.
Just one more, as we do see the kill picked up for Zeus. The early lane playing out the way it has, but that has not been a problem for Doran. I feel like a lot of the early laning phases have been Zeus favored, but then he's able to effortlessly bounce back. Part of that is also as we keep going back to Owner. This man does so much lifting for the team, both in the fights as well as in the lane setups and the dive that they continuously fight.
Yeah, great pounce there from Peanut to get himself out of the way, just harassing Carrier and Owner out of the jungle. And trying to set up something here as the 2v2 has ensued on the other side. That is going to continue here. You can see Viper still pretty far behind, as his early laning phase has been all about Gumayusi and Carrier. This is obviously one of their most successful combinations of champions. They've used this to great effect many, many times. We'll see whether it is going to continue like this. So far, so good here for the T1 bottom lane. We do have Peanut in the area, but remember, he is in Italy, so with no CC, I don't think he'll be able to offer anything here in defense of this lane. Would have been nice if there was a dive coming for him to be there, but Owner does not carry his clearing. Well, there's the grand entrance as the door is taking so much damage here. As he's still trying to fight back, a dangerous decision. As we can see, slow down Carrier, and they are just zoning them away from their turret here, just in a 2v2.
It's getting straight up gapped in this 2v2, not even remotely close. As I think Viper
もうでもこれ逃げる読みでボットにステイしても良さそうだったけどな。こっち道だったし、なだし。なんかここら辺はなんか読み毎回負けてるね。HLE が。多分これ合わせないといけないみたいな考え方で合わせにいったんだろうけど、そうするよりなんかまあ2対1させてゲームした方が良さそう。
And this is going to be Peanut clearing vision on this dragon, but they have no idea beyond the pit where anyone is.
勝ってる側がスラップ合わせるというか、負けてる側が頑張ってうまく逃げたり、勝ってる側があったりしてるけど、これちょっとあんま考えないでスラップしてそうだけどね、この感じは。
They might need to overload if they're going to get something done. As there is the Justice Punch to come in. Faker going to get taunted up as the Spear will connect as well. Tibbers goes down, but here the Cavalry has arrived. Sonic Wave goes wide. Zeka just a slight sidestep there. The listing lazily to the left once again, working out beautifully here on the LCK stage.
いや、今のはまあどっちみちリコールした後トップ走ってもウェーブないし。だったらボットに逃げながらドラゴン見る方が効率いいからルシアンはまあもちろん逃げながらドラゴン見に行くでそれを T1 が読んでボット側に走ったもう完全に1回の読み負けからもう読み負け続けてるね読み負けっていうかまあもうこれはもうなんかもうそうするしかないからそれに合わせられてるって感じだけど1回読み負けてもうその後やることないってだけだねこれ
See, Delight uses this TP to come down here with Viper, but they can't do anything to this Dragon. And like you said, it's just insane how much control over Dragon T1 has had this entire 3 sets of games, or set of 3 games, I should say.
Oh, Doran, nice sidestep there, as we can see, as the Mega Nod just uses the R button because you may as well in this matchup. I don't think Doran's going to be dying just yet. It's a decent wall up there as Zeus is continuing to throw skills at the Cassante, but he's got the steel caps. He's looking like he's feeling okay. As Zeka moving down towards the bottom side, and Viper will be part of the mid, at least for now. 700 gold is the lead here for Gumayusi. So much of this has been him on the receiving end of all of the positives from this early game.
And that's no jungle intervention.
ミッドに逃げるのが一番危ないけどね。
No dive being threatened. It was just straight up.
クレンズがある間は生きられるか。
Feels like, even with the increase in form that we saw of Guma in particular, but even Carrier to a certain extent, I think he was a lot more inconsistent during the regular season, even though he's still at the highs. But damn, just gapping like this, I think, is unexpected as well.
That's the worst.
That is not what they were looking for here, as HLE still with an opportunity to fight for this one, as we've got top laners battling.
スマイトも使って取られた。ゼウスウルトないこれ。
兄貴
来てる？ビジョン取れてない。ビジョン取れた。あ、これもう無理だね。入れないねここから。勝ち切った。
The timing on this, where they are able to get the second grub without using Smite, and then just be able to secure the third one for free. Faker on that flank angle, they knew he was in the brush. They just could not collapse because he's got flash Tibbers.
Yeah, and Ona now going to move over, deny any sort of Raptor steal. T1 have every answer in this early game.
And it's not even like Hanwha Life already getting anything on the rest of the map, because in that whole sequence, Zeka like, was on bot, then roamed mid because he wanted to be ready for a possible fight. And the call was to not make the fight because they didn't have Meganar. Then he walked into the jungle to try and maybe contest and ends up not really getting... If you get like a blade or two out of that, I think you're going to be feeling a lot better, but the cross map just isn't there.
2対2ガチきつそうだね、これ。立てないから今のきついけど。レベルもきついし。
Delight's level 4. I just now ticked over, but he's basically a full level behind. Same for Viper.
Carrier about to hit that quickness as well. There it is.
I mean, they're just going to zone him off another wave. Like, otherwise, I mean, good luck defending this dive.
There is that quickness that goes in, gets the charm onto Delight, who's kicked away. But here's the heroic entrance. Gumayushi with the feather storm, though.
強いぞこれ。ザヤ強い。あー惜しい。9当たってれば。何じゃねえ。これ来ちゃうよ。左が。ここまでかな。どうした。うわー。終わった。
He finds the angle. There's another pyro blast. It could be a triple for the Annius. Tibbers looks to clean up, and it's in fact the Blind Monk that gets it in the end. 4 for nothing here for T1 in this early game, and Zeus is also taking damage from Doran.
世界終わりの4キル。
That's got to be a backbreaker. Like there's just no way.
There's no way. Because right before this, I was gonna say, I mean, at least you got a gold lead for the counter matchup. You gave Zeus. At least you got this Gnar. And if Peanut can stabilize in this game, you can have some poke. You can play around objectives. But I mean, this is just a bottom 2v2 setup where again Guma pushes it in, and they have so much agency. Zeus looking for something back here in the bottom lane.
He has to.
Yeah, let's see if we can find it. Teleport is going to come in. Doran goes all out and doesn't get CC'd from the Gnar. Zeus looking to try and get himself out of here as there is the wallop. It's Carrier that comes in, and there's the Q charged up. Doran wanting a little bit more. The flash does come through as Zeus gets the transformation. The turret's getting aggressive. Zeus still trying to get out of here, but it does not work. And Doran picks up the kill.
これトップサイド走ってたのかリダリ。あまあでも TP がさほどしてきてるのか。ああ。まあ難しいか。難しいな。
It's just a disaster across the board. It looks like initially maybe there's a chance to turn it around with Zeka or coming in. That's the first
Zaryaの戦い方が強すぎたなこれ。
Just like some of the spears you're about to be seeing. And even though the members of Hanwha are here, they're already so far behind. And here comes the Annie. Finds the two-man
LCK カメラだなマジで。フェイカーのことを映してくれたってよくない？俺らのことをそんなにびっくりさせる必要なかったと思うんだけど。
If you know the Galio doesn't come up, they lose that, right? But when the Galio comes up, it means Faker can come up for free. There's no CC on this Nidalee. There's just no saving it. And Doran has backup because once again, unsealed Spellbook Rakan is going to be how Carrier helps Doran hard force this kill on Zeus. And at this point, it almost feels personal as Doran is making this road to MSI all about him.
Well, T1 are going to continue making it about them as they look for this engage onto Peanut. He tries to get himself out of there, but Delight is in such an awkward position. Zeus is coming
どうだこれフォーカスえぐいけど。
In a decent spot, the culling this time is going to actually hit some T1 players.
ケリアがなんか生きてる。なんか生きてる。Oh my god.
Oh man, this is
これケリア生きるマジか。
They are just dominating.
This is disgusting. I mean, it's the most one-sided game we've seen in a while. Probably, arguably across the whole tournament. We had some crazy KET 3-0s, but this is something else entirely. Doran gets the whole turret, the first turret, and feeds a string. I don't know if this could be any more one-sided. And I want to see the Hanwha fans. How are they feeling right now?
I don't want to. Let's not do that.
I'd rather not know. I think it's okay. It's a 6K gold deficit, and again here it's T1, the power of friendship. Someone goes in, we all commit, and obviously so far behind is Hanwha already in items, but I thought with that two-man knock-up, maybe that could be something. Maybe they can follow up. But they just don't have the stats. Ona gets Peanut in, which means that Peanut just goes down after that kick. And then Zeus desperately tries to take down Carrier. Look at his weaving. The shield keeps him alive. Ona obviously doesn't care about the turret. And that's the only appropriate response.
Yeah, Carrier just having a little bit of a giggle at this one. I think he kind of knows that ticket is already theirs. Looking for another bit of an engagement here as soon as we're out of replays, we seem to be into another thing.
T1's success is also Hanwha's tragedy. Again, so close, but coming into today, massive favorites. Massive favorites. I mean, there were so many 3-0s on our side. Very few T1 believers, and they were 3-2 believers at that, hoping that it's going to go to the fifth and final game. And it must be insane whiplash to come into today feeling like, well, it was tough against Genji, but surely today we'll get it done in T1. Or just a different beast than they were in regular season, a different beast than they were even yesterday. And this is the kind of glow up you want to see from a team that's going to represent the LCK at MSI.
なの部分はかなり勝てる余地がある。
For Hanwha in this game, right? Like, not even talking about the mental, not talking about the fact that they are on the verge of losing their 6th game in a row, basically getting just fully swept.
Oh dear, that door went the wrong direction there as Delight does absorb a few of these auto attacks. Stand beside is going to get Delight out of there, but still.
You're a short range comp. Like, how are you ever going to retake any controller? You need to get down and dirty to get anything done, and the items just aren't there.
And who sets up the Galio ults? You know, how do you find your way in? It's
like that.
Yeah, here's the flash forward. That's what Delight is looking for as they do get the Feather Storm out from Gumayushi. That's exactly what HLE want. Now there's a clock. Now they need to figure out how to get on top of Guma and make something happen. But I mean, I feel like they are so far behind, and yeah, there's Cleanse, there's Flash. Thanks for showing me there, Chronicler. There is still answers here.
まあザヤのウルトは落とさせないとね。まずゲームにならないから。
All you gotta do is just ult that there and you're fine. As even this is desperation.
Yeah. I mean, this is Zeka being able to push Faker away. He's, of course, got the Molten Shield and now has a bear. Going to make this one a little bit unfair towards the bottom side of the map as the Winds of War come down. But I don't know whether Zeka can even win this.
Oh my god.
Discovers that as well as he flashes
away. It's too much! Where's the mercy rule?
Yeah, oh god.
And I wanted a good series today. And for me, that meant T1 showing up. I didn't quite mean it like this. I didn't expect to get the bad series because T1 showed up a little too much.
I feel like you opened the door for T1 to show up and Hanwha Life Esports just left.
We may have monkey pawed this one a little bit.
I think that is the important thing to note. Hanwha were the favorites today, but if you had Combinator's guys, T1 clutched it. It was a 3-2. Hanwha got close, but it wasn't enough. It was the T1 magic. I don't think that would have really surprised any of us.
That's why that's why Digon predicted that.
Yeah, no? And I think it was Coco as well, right? That makes sense. T1 just out of nowhere, and it is out of nowhere, let's be very real. They lost 2-0 to this team. Not, what, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
It is just insane, and it needs to be the credit, because we always talk about T1. We know that 4 out of these 5 players are reigning world champions, 2-time. There's also the reigning LCK champion, Kruglord Doran, which I feel like we need to give him the credit. He's the defending champion, and it was on this team that he's facing right now.
Yep. And the defending world champion that's on the other side isn't quite getting it done as Carrier goes in. Owner there as well, finds the kick to get the double knock up. As they're now just looking to take down Peanut. They'll take that one very comfortably. Delight next on the menu, Delicious. Here's the knock up comes through. My god, the damage as Zeka will be eviscerated. Nice. And Viper standing alongside Zeus underneath this turret, and Doran says, you are coming with me. The Kruglord sends his regards as Viper will look for a Mega Cone for a disengage.
Am I crazy? Or is it actually perfect gameable? All Grubs, all Herald, all turrets.
God, you
no
are
kills
right.
for Hanwha. They could perfect game Hanwha and knock them out of MSI.
Oh, that is absurd. Okay, Zeus is just going to get taken down under this turret unceremoniously. And like you were talking about, the perfect game still on the line. 12-0 is the kill score. They're going to take an inner turret here at 18 minutes. Oh man, now we're just talking about HLE. Can they get a kill ever in this game? That's going to be the question. Maybe off the back of this one, but never mind. He's got the smooth moves to taxi alongside the Grump. The Blade Caller there as well to hold them in place.
Well, they got to defend this Dragon if they want to keep that alive as well.
Oh, Guma. Yeah. Zeka going in. Guma is going forward into 3 people. The Feathers are just doing so much damage. As all right. Carrier going to join him. There is the knock-up attempt onto Zeka, who doesn't get the taunt. Onto Gumayushi, he's got the shield, the flash with the feather storm. Is there an answer? And Zeus cannot do anything as he gets that back line. It's the Pyroblast from Faker that locks him down. And they might be able to get one. Carrier is going to fall. There goes the perfect game, but it doesn't mean anything because they are stamping their ticket to MSI in this play right here.
Speechless is how I'm feeling right now. T1
パーフェクトゲームじゃなくなったけど、そんだけだなマジで。
completely unlocked.
And I have been the unfortunate recipient of many a DK fell for it again award, but we collectively fell for it again when it comes to T1. Of course they're going to be our MSI representative. Of course they just turn it on when it matters most. They were just sandbagging. We thought it was Hanwha.
Yeah, this was
いやまあ
apparently
形の
what
悪い
Hanwha
ファイ
were
ト
doing.
に
They've
チャン
admitted
スっ
this.
ていうの
They
はないん
said
だ
they
よ
were
ね。
built for international
だ
competition.
から HP がどうなってるとかあんま関係ない。戦えない。
As this was just Gumayushi playing with his food, as Zeus went in to try and take him down, and he just said no. And Carrier does go down, but he's Rakan. He's set up the play for the rest of his teammates. Oh, goodness me. T1 just have every answer today.
I mean, they could do no wrong here. This is one of the most one-sided games I've ever seen in a best of 5 in professional play here in Korea. It's just nearly a perfect game, as mentioned. Just that one kill stops the perfect here for T1, but how can you even say composed on the stage here as Hanwha, considering all the circumstances around this almost qualification for them? As bye-bye
is just going to run towards Faker. The all-out from Doran just says no mega cone for you, sir.
本来いるはずのところにいなくてびっくりしちゃった。あ、蹴られて死んだ。
But he just gets booted out of the rift entirely. Zeus now just trying his very best to hop his way out. Don't mind me, everyone.
The minion
as
died!
the Sonic Wave goes wide. But I still think he's just being escorted to the death chamber, ladies and gentlemen. Doran tanking up this turret momentarily. The grand entrance holds him in place. And now the base is going to get broken. Gumayushi going to test his mettle against the Arakan. And yeah, T1 are able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, until they decide that it's time to pick up that
勝てなさそうじゃないこれ。
He doesn't win this.
I don't think he does.
I mean, I'm pretty invested in this one right now. As he
どうだどうだどうだ勝てそう勝てそう勝てそう勝てそう。おお。勝てるんだな。
That was soloing an Arakan, everyone. That's what that was. It was he did manage to get that one done. Didn't necessarily need to, but he did.
Everyone's had a role to play in this series, and I think Faker, who was the most quiet of the 5, has 0 deaths in this game and has been such a strong facilitator.
I've seen Guma steal objectives before, but I feel like this is a new level. Okay, this is too much.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't sure he was going to get it. I was on the side.
Oh no, I was worried.
I mean, that was the only we're not really sure whether they'll get it moment that we've had so far in this game.
Oh yeah, that was the first moment of uncertainty.
Yeah, as we get the replay, of course. We need some pro view here. As yeah, you saw that owner was coming on over trying to grab it, and he said, "Yeah, I won," and he did.
And if he didn't, would it really matter?
No, not really. But it's getting some revenge for his teammates. As Doran, remember, he lost that same battle on the bottom side of the map against a different camp, but still.
A clearly stronger one.
It's some revenge. As Delight, oh god, the Braum just taking so much damage here as Doran throws Zeker into the wall. He's not quite as tanky as he really wants to be right now. Still cannot tank 4 members of HLE. That it does not matter. He's just zoning.
We thought
turret goes down.
We thought the era of Genji T1 might have been over. We finally had a new champion. We finally had a new challenger in summer, but T1 still won the world championship and weren't able to make it to first stand. But they're putting their stamp on the MSI ticket, saying we are still able to hang with the best. We are still up there with Genji. We are a top 2 team in the LCK, and they're going to earn it here.
Yeah, that was actually very cute by Ona. Peanut wanted to hop over there, and he was like, "Let me help you," as he kicks him back towards his base. And all right, HLE are at least on the map for the moment. They are absolutely reeling. In goes Zeka looking to try and get one against Faker here. Darius says absolutely not. He finds a whole lot of charms here in this mid lane. The heroic entrance is going to get a knock up onto the Rakan. Yeah, they'll be able to kill him again, but do they have any chance in the rest of this fight? And the answer is maybe they can get Faker, but otherwise it is all T1 as Gumayushi will be able to take down his former teammate. Peanut trying to get himself out of here as Ona gonna join him as they blast cone their way out. Another Sonic Wave is gonna go wide as the Blade Caller coming on through. Peanut trying to do what he can, but Ona just needs one more auto, one more something as the cat will survive.
He gets out, but I don't know if he feels happy right now about it, Atlas. And
yeah, we can cue the yakety sax, I think, a little bit here.
I'm pretty confident he doesn't. I'm willing to take that bat. Zeka, they know, right? Like they probably knew after the top side play The emotes are flying, but Hanwha Life.
Yeah, the sad
Oh
B.
no, not the sad B.
As the teleport is going to look to put the end to this funny business. As Delight came in, so that's going to try and help out here, as he does have a taunt. He manages to buff the Justice Punch quite nicely here, but he's still on a sliver of health. As Zeus decent knob position right now, but there's the insect from Ona. He's going to be able to take down Vipers. Now Peanut once again finding himself in a precarious spot, but not as precarious as what Zeus is dealing with right here. It's a cute little gnaw, and he might be able to keep himself alive for a little bit longer, but T1 are still just messing with him. As finally the Sonic Wave is going to connect, and Ona collects another kill. Delight puts up the door. He's got a flash, but he doesn't have a chance to use it, and now T1, with so many members of HLE out of this game right now, they're going to look to take down an inhibitor and get this first Nexus turret taken down as well.
26-3, 8 turrets to 0, no objectives for Hanwha in this final game.
And I had a line prepared about denying golden roads and things like that. I just don't think it's relevant. T1 were just so damn good today. It didn't even look like Hanwha Esports turned up. They'll take down the Nexus and T1 will step into service at MSI. On one side of the arena, elation for T1 returning to form. A T1 that struggled through LCK Cup was defeated by this very same team early on in our playoffs. A team that had swapping bottom laners and underperforming top laner, but they did not give up. Their resolve was insanely strong in this road to MSI, and they will once again be our representatives. Faker grabs the ticket amongst roaring fans. And they're our second seed here for the LCK. And once again, it is Genji and T1 heading to MSI. We might be able to get that rematch once more. It's the only one that we were denied here in Busan. We might have been saving that for
MSI は決まりと Genji T1 で。
A harrowing end to what still was, I think, a great season. Clear second in their region for most of this year.
いやー、レッドサイド、でも3試合目はバンクレッドサイド取った強みはマジで出なかったな。
Obviously, one LCK Cup, one first stand, rather effortlessly, but here today, it was a collapse. And it feels like ever since Genji got that reverse sweep, Hanwha Life just wasn't able to come back. And what is most poignant to me is Owner having a stellar performance. That isn't a surprise. Keria and Guma gapping, the way they did was insane, but you can see that if you're told in advance. But come on, man, Doran.
I mean, we've seen it before. This is not a surprise.
But it's been a year.
This is domestic roadshow Doran. I mean, and he is the worst enemy of Zeus and always has
and of himself. Please, Doran, just keep this level up.
We literally mentioned this during the top lane walkouts that sometimes Doran gets the better of him, but I still didn't think it was going to happen today. I thought it was time to maybe we were going to see a change of the guard there in terms of these big roadshow BO5s, but Doran, man, you never know what he's going to do, and right now he is going up and up and up.
いや、LCK シーズンも見れたらよかったんだけどな。LCP と被ってる日、ちょっと見れないのと、ちょっと試合やりすぎね。まあ、プレイオフから見るのちょうどよかったな。おもろかった。
Was just an everything gap. Right? Like
シーズンの状況は知らんが T1 が強くて楽しかった。マジで本当にシーズンどうなってたのか本当に何も知らないけど T1 は強かった。俺が去年 WCS で見た姿とほぼ変わってなかった。多分美味しいとこだけ食べた。ということで次はあるのかどうかわからない MSI かな。バンクーバー。
It's Delight missing skill shots. It's Peanut not having an early impact. This is very clearly just the Hanwha Life that was rattled and my god, the T1 made good use of it.
They really did.
This third game was that one is going to be very fun for any T1 fan, any Hanwha fan.